All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Market Close. Folks, we went green. We went green as we end out the day. The S&P 500 is up almost 1% right now as we get into the end of the day. I can't say I'm that shocked, because quite frankly, in the morning, it did feel like we were going to have a reversal given that everything was red except Bitcoin, which is the biggest risk on asset indicator. So to me, it felt like there was a shot we reverse on just the very nature that Bitcoin really wasn't tanking. But B, I also can't say I trust it. Like, I know a lot of you guys can't trust this because at this point, the market has cheated on us many, many times. We keep coming back to it. I did buy the dip. I'll talk about that in a second. And although we say, hey, it's time to be in a monogamous relationship, the market continues to cheat on us, but we continue to come back for whatever reason that we do. Apple is green. Celsius up 7%. Verizon is green. Palantir was down 7% of the day. Palantir is now only down 2.5%. SoFi was down 5%. That's down 1.6%. Robinhood was down 7%. That's down 1.3%. Amazon was at 185. Now it's at 190. I mean, if we hold on to some of this momentum, maybe there is indeed a shot that that markets end up not being that bad. At least for now. Hold on, what's happening right now? The screen is being a little weird. Let me change this. Okay, unshare. Okay, why is it doing this? Okay, there we go. We're back to better. Okay, so that's the first thing I'm going to be asking right here in the chat. Do you trust this green at all? At least for now, in the last 20 or 15 minutes of the day, it kind of feels trustworthy, but then again, who knows, dude? Who knows? In the morning, I think I told you guys I was down 42,000. Let's take a look at the portfolio right now. We are down 17, and at one point we were up like 15. It's very volatile. But I think a lot of people probably had a similar reaction to their portfolios where it was really ugly in the morning, like just disgustingly ugly. But as we get through the end of the day, at least for now, we're having a little bit of updates that get us the green. 74% of you say no, you do not trust the green. That is fair. 26% of you say yes. Now, we got a bunch of headlines to run through. Thank you, everybody, for being here. That kind of explain why we went a little green. But quite frankly, the headlines that I give you aren't going to be that interesting of a reason for why we go green. I think this is either technical, algorithmic, or a little bit of a pump before doomsday on Wednesday, which is April 2nd. And that's kind of how the market is navigating itself right now. Now, real quick, what did I buy on the dip? I bought two stocks, Nvidia and Hood. Surprise, surprise. And it was 15 shares of Hood, 15 shares of Nvidia. Let me know in the chat what anyone bought. This is what I bought today. Got Hood at 4108 and then Nvidia at 105.48. So very small buys, nothing too crazy. I kind of want to say, yeah, it's like its sentiment is bad. We're bottoming out, but we talked a lot in the morning, which is that we just don't know what's going to happen April 2nd. I'd rather buy these stocks at higher prices with a little bit more clarity around what's going on with tariffs versus just assuming that tariffs are going to be okay. And so April 2nd, we will find out. Why is StreamYard doing this? This is so stupid. When I exit out of a screen, why is it still keeping me small? This is being so dumb, dude. Why are they... If I stop sharing this... Dude, what is this, dude? Why is it like... Hold on. Delete scene. This is so dumb. Let me do new scene speaker. Okay, that's StreamYard's becoming overly complicated for no reason. All right, we're back. We should be back to normal. Okay, cool. So I see a lot of NVIDIA's in the chat, Google's in the chat, Novo's in the chat. We got some Hoods in the chat, Rocket Lab, SoFi. Some people got NVIDIA at 104, 103, not bad. Adobe, Google, Moderna, Palantir, NVIDIA, AMD. All right, so we got a lot of people that bought a ton of different stocks today. We also had Celsius that had an incredible day, going up 7%. I think it's the best performing stock today. VGT, Google, HIMS, sold some puts on HIMS, Amazon, Grab, NVIDIA. I mean, look, I think buying today is not crazy at all, simply because of the fact that I think a lot of the sentiment is getting priced in when it comes to April 2nd. But again, if April 2nd is really bad, then we're going to have to deal with how that plays out. This is what we have on some headlines when it comes to tariffs, and then we'll keep going from there. The White House has confirmed that the Liberation Day tariff announcements will take place in the Rose Garden on April 2nd. So we will have some beautiful scenery as the market decides if we're heading lower or not. This is one thing I was curious about in the morning. How are they going to make this announcement? Is it going to be in the Oval Office? Is it going to be like in the PR press office, or is it going to be, some grand event? And apparently they've chosen the Rose Garden to announce how we try to liberate ourselves from the pain of of tariffs. So that's one update in the context of tariffs. The second update is primarily the same thing that we talked about in the morning. Tariffs will continue to be imposed the way that the Trump administration has described them. One spokesperson asked the administration, they asked the administration this morning if anything was going to change, and the answer was no. So the Trump administration continues to say that there will be no exemptions for tariffs. They will all be as they were stated on the NBC interview on Sunday and 2 days ago when Scott Bessent spoke with NBC. So it looks like as of now, we are going to continue to see the tariffs become essentially universally applied across all the countries that are tariffing us already, and they will be reciprocal. And as a result, on April 2nd, we will then see how this ends up playing out in just about 2 days. So that's going to be very important. Yes, roses are red, which means maybe we should be expecting some red, which quite frankly is better analysis than any of the big banks that had to say what they think about tariffs. I mean, look, roses are red. It's in the Rose Garden. Put 2 and 2 together. All right, we might end up going red. Now, one thing that is not going red is Sam Altman's OpenAI user growth. Let's talk about this for a second, because this will lead us into what's going on with Nvidia. Sam Altman today said that ChatGPT added 1 million users in 1 hour. Now, this is very ironic because right before the market opened, literally like I think 2 minutes before the market opened, I was talking about that Ghibli trend or whatever that's going viral on ChatGPT. And the point I was trying to make in the morning was that, hey, Altman said the Nvidia GPUs are literally fried because of how many people are using this photo trend. Today, 5 hours after the market opens, Sam Altman says, hey, yeah, in 2 years ago when we launched GPT, we added 1 million users in 5 days. Today, we added 1 million users in an hour. And so to me, I think that if a photo trend went viral on GPT and the GPUs are getting fried because of this, when there are 10x the number of use cases that aren't just an animated photo trend for people to share on Instagram or Twitter, what happens to Nvidia stock? I mean, that to me just shows a broader bull case that if 1 million new people signed up to their first ever AI experience, which is GPT, because of a photo trend, which by the way, how ironic is it that it was a photo, it was a freaking filter on your photos. It was anime that is what needed to get GPT to explode even more than it is right now. But if that's what you needed to get more AI momentum, I would imagine that when there's 10x the use cases, and we'll talk about a couple of them that got funded this morning, one of them having to do with Google, that there should be more demand for Nvidia, which means I would go, from that perspective, you can make an argument for being long Nvidia. Now, one other thing that's really important, I checked ChatGPT's website traffic. In the month of February, 3.9 billion visits to ChatGPT. Again, Google's at 88 billion, still in a different league, but 3.9 billion, that is the number 16th most visited website in the United States and the number 10th most visited website across the entire world. So from my perspective, look, could you say the OpenAI foundational models are becoming commoditized? Yes, but one of the reasons I think they just raised that $300 billion, and we talked about this in the morning, is because of their first mover advantage in the context of consumer. If I'm going to be honest, when anyone I know that's not super into tech and finance thinks of AI, they don't think of Gemini, they don't think of Grok, they think of ChatGPT. And I'm pretty sure this is very similar to everybody with your friend or family circle. Like, most people don't know what Gemini or Grok is, but they definitely have at least heard of the concept of ChatGPT. I canceled my ChatGPT subscription for Grok. I don't need it. Grok is pretty much the same, if not better. And I already pay for X Premium, so it wasn't useful to me. But 1 million users in 1 hour. I mean, if that type of growth keeps up, that's going to be more users, more queries, and more compute, which to me means more Nvidia. And I think more Nvidia from the perspective of, hey, all these GPUs are not only going to have more use cases for brand new people that are now saying, oh, I just created this photo trend with ChatGPT. What if I can ask it to help me write my essay? Or what if I can ask it to help me draft this email? I mean, the use cases start compounding on each other as the distribution starts to scale. And then the question becomes, how good do Grok and Gemini get to be able to compete for those people attention, which means they're going to need more GPUs as well. And I think it just becomes a easy argument for why NVIDIA scales. I'm not saying GPT is the only reason to be bullish on NVIDIA, but this is just another use case that GPT put out today. 1 million users in an hour for a consumer product is quite insane. And the fact that they're able to do that, to me, means that there should be more demand coming along the way for Nvidia. Nvidia right here is still down on the day, about 1.12%. Nice little recovery from 103.6 to 108.4. A lot of you guys in the chat are saying you don't trust the green. I cannot blame you. April 2nd will determine what ends up happening. And there's a variety of different scenarios we'll walk through in terms of how I think April 2nd goes down. But also can't blame anyone for taking a nibble at this dip right here. Apple goes green 1.9%. The reason Apple was green this morning, actually, I don't think it's because the market was fleeing to safety. I mean, that could be one of the reasons, but the other reason was that they got upgraded because some of their channel checks for, I think it was Goldman Sachs that put out the report, found that February iPhone sales were greater than January. And so the momentum on February iPhone sales is like, I think it's up to like 9% year over year, which is good for Apple buying more phones. In particular, or sorry, for Apple selling more phones. And this is in particular in China. That's what also made it important because China, they've been struggling a little bit to some of the competitors. So I guess that's why Apple got up today. Maybe also the market wanted some safety. Tesla was at 244, right back to 259. Not bad, only down 1.5%. Kramer also this morning did say, I think the exact quote was, anyone buying stocks today is stupid. Something like that. Oh, it was like, I couldn't think of a dumber day. Yeah, I can't think of a dumber day to buy stocks. Well, I guess it is what it is as the market tries to recover a little bit. Even CoreWeave was down 9%. Now it's only down 7%. Google right here, 154. Meta, 576. Meta almost about to go green. Google is going green. And then you got Amazon from 185 to 190. So that was the big update we had in the context of OpenAI and the user growth momentum that's leading to a renewed bull case in the context of Nvidia GPUs. Another big stock that went public today is Newsmax. Now, you might be thinking, Amit, why didn't you tell me before that it was going public? I mean, like, aren't you supposed to know when this stuff happens and share it with us? The answer is yes, I am supposed to know that. But it didn't hit my radar for the past week. I mean, I saw this thing go public today and I was like, what? And it was after the market opened. I was like, wait a second. Newsmax? The news channel, it's been around for a decade. Their main distribution is print media, or sorry, not print, TV and radio. And from my understanding, they're a conservative news network. I mean, they're not CNN, they're not MSNBC, they're more like Fox, but a smaller version of it. Things up 722% on the day. 722%. Now, granted, even if I knew about it, I wouldn't have bought the IPO. There's no way I would have bought a media stock. Like, that's just, it's a media stock, but it's up almost 750%. And I've been trying to rationalize it all day. Like, why the hell did this thing pump out of everything? I think it's becoming a MAGA trade. I don't know how it went viral. I don't know what Reddit forum or whatever people got a hold of it, but there's no way this thing debuts at $10, gets halted like 50 times today. And now it's at $82. If there's not some level of a trade associated with it that's rooted in a thematic, and that thematic might end up being MAGA oriented, as in like people that support Trump are buying the stock because they put out a lot of MAGA good content. And that's why we're seeing this one get momentum. However, the more interesting thing about Newsmax, outside of the fact that it's up 750%, is that why the hell is a stock in this environment, I don't care how meme-ish it is, going up 700% the day of IPO? Even my mic fell. My mic couldn't believe it. 700% in the day of IPO? Like, that to me says a little bit more about the risk-on, risk-off environment that we're in, which is kind of emblematic of the fact that the market ended up going green towards the end of the day, versus something very specific about Newsmax itself. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's a Newsmax-specific story, which is why we're getting all this momentum. But that's weird, bro. Yeah, Bay Ray says, in this economy, for a stock to go, I mean, if CoreWeave, which I think is a much better business than Newsmax, which is selling ads from My Pillow Guy, like if CoreWeave can barely go, green on their IPO and they're down 8% a week later, I mean, it's quite surprising to see what Newsmax is doing, but nonetheless, this is the market that we're in right now. All right, 4 p.m. Monday, March 31st. Got a lot of other headlines to get into. The stock market is now closed. All right, we end out the day green on the S&P 500. Somehow, some way, from 546 to 560, ending up the day at 559.22. The S&P 500 ends up going green. Bay Ray says, when do puts open up for Newsmax? That is the first question I had when I saw that it was at $45. Now it's at $82. I don't know when the option chain opens up, hopefully soon. I want to say I'm going to be buying puts on this thing because this looks stupid, but I also want to do a little bit more research. And it's like, is there like a GameStop army of people that have been planning this epic thing around Newsmax? It's up another 2% after hours, dude. Like, what is going on here? Because I don't think any of you guys knew about the Newsmax IPO. I didn't know about it. When I posted it on Twitter, most people were like, what? We didn't even know this thing was IPOing. But it is. So successful IPO for a company in the media space. I don't know if the street's going to interpret that as successful for all the other tech companies like Discord, Klarna, et cetera, that want to IPO. But at least as of today, this one was up 700%. Nvidia ends up the day down about 0.82%, 108 from 103 to 108. Celsius up 5.85% of the day. Robinhood was down 0.72 from 38 to 41.62. Palantir from 78 to 84, still down about 1.69% of the day. SoFi 11.63, down about 2%. Apple up 2%. GameStop up 2.6%. PayPal is up about 0.15%. Bitcoin was at 83.5. Now it's at 82.3. Pretty much has been green the whole day. Michael Saylor did buy another 22,000 Bitcoin at 86,000 over the course of last week, and he announced it today. SMCI basically flat on the day. Tesla down 1.6%, but it went from 244 to 259, so a hell of a swing. In the context of Tesla, still down about 2% on the day. CoreWeave was down 7%. Google was up about 0.2%. Meta basically flat. Novo Nordisk was up 2% on the day. IWM, small caps down about 0.46. Eli Lilly was up 0.37. And then Google right here again, down 0.11. Amazon still down 1% on the day, 1.2, but rebounded from 185 to 190 as we end out the day. MicroStrategy itself, 288. That was down about 0.39% on the day. Do we have any earnings today? We have Red Cat. All right, so Red Cat after the bell. Not sure when we're going to get Red Cat, but we'll see when it happens. I'm not covering Gorilla. Guys, this company is just, I don't know enough about this company. It's too small. It's a very, very, very small cap. So that I'm happy if people are making money on that. That's up 18% of the day. But yeah, just, I don't cover that stock. I have no idea what it is, and it's way too small of a small cap to be covering into. But I know a lot of people aped into it in the beginning of the year, so hopefully they have a good earnings. We'll see how the stock reacts based on when the earnings comes out. 4:30 for Red Cat. Okay, cool. So we'll get Red Cat a little bit later today. I don't own Red Cat, don't own Archer, don't own Gorilla, don't own any of these names, but we'll be curious to see how these earnings play out. Red Cat was basically down 0.17% on the day. Okay, cool. So that's what we had in the context of the broader market. Poet as well. Wow, there's a lot of small caps that are putting up earnings, which makes sense because I guess we're near the end of Q4 earnings, which is why we're getting more of these smaller earnings. Q2 earnings or Q1 earnings should be starting pretty soon. I believe in... Yeah, look at that. In 2 weeks, April 15th. So April 15th, we start with the banks. April 15th, we start with the banks, and then we get into tech the week of April 22. That's when Tesla is supposed to start off earnings. So we got about 2 weeks until earnings begins, and then 3 weeks until it gets pretty aggressive when it comes to tech stocks. Okay, cool. So let's look at some of the other headlines we looked at. So we talked about the Nvidia news with OpenAI. We talked about Newsmax and their IPO. We talked about the tariff update, which is basically going to be happening in the Rose Garden on April 2nd. In 2 days, we'll get a deeper understanding of what happens from there. Let's talk a little bit about what this means in terms of the different outcomes that I think we can get. So here are the core outcomes I'm thinking about when it comes to tariffs, and then we'll keep going from there. Number one, we could get instant universal reciprocal tariffs on April 2nd across the board, and that's pretty much it. Number two, we could get tariffs against everyone with a new delay from Mexico and Canada. CNBC talked about that this morning, that sources are saying we could get a delay of about another month, so then May 2nd becomes the big day for Mexico and Canada. Third, we could get tariffs across everything with exceptions for core industries like semis. This is the most likely outcome, in my opinion. I think we're going to get reciprocal tariffs across the board. However, semis, pharmaceuticals, et cetera, might not be included in the tariffs. I don't know if it's exactly going to be those sectors, but there is a world where Trump says, all right, we're going to give some of these industries a little bit more time to adapt, but the street's still going to have to react to a ton of new tariffs coming in. Newsmax is up to 20% after hours. That is incredible. That is crazy. We could also potentially get new deals where countries announce a reduction in their tariffs and concede to some things that Trump wants. We'll talk about the Japan, South Korea, and China headline from this morning because I thought that was really interesting and that gives a little bit more clarity on why they're teaming up together against these tariffs. But yeah, that could also be something that plays out. And then finally, we could get a ton of new tariffs, but then within a few weeks, those tariffs could be taken off as countries realize that a trade war is bad for everyone, which I also think is very likely to happen because I just don't think India wants 50% reciprocal tariffs, just because, you know, just in the name of tariffs, if those tariffs result in an inevitable trade war. So yeah, I think those are the scenarios for tariffs. And my best guess would be a combination of we're going to delay some tariffs against Mexico and Canada. We're going to delay some tariffs against different industries. And then third, we are going to get some deals rather quickly, like within a week or 2 weeks of other countries that are like, you know what, screw this. We're going to lower our tariffs. You lower your tariffs. And then we kind of avoid the depths of a trade war. That is my best guess scenario. Will that actually happen? We're going to find out in the next couple of weeks, but that is what I think could happen. Here's another chart that I thought was really interesting. The S&P 500 is down about 5% year to date. A lot of people are saying, you know, doom and gloom, the market sucks, yada, yada. It's a horrible situation. 7 sectors are up year to date, and 9 of them are actually outperforming the S&P 500. Also, pretty much every global market, including China and Europe, that have underperformed for the basically past 5 years, are outperforming the United States, and they are green year to date. Technology is down 11% year to date. And for those people that are heavily rooted in tech, like myself and like a lot of people, yeah, you're feeling a lot of the pain and it's annoying and yeah, it is what it is. But a lot of parts of the market are not doing that bad. Consumer staples up 3% year to date. Energy, even though oil prices have come down dramatically, that's up 9% year to date. Real estate's up 2.5%. Financials are up 2.2%. Healthcare is up 5.6%. Healthcare was a big loser last year. That's doing really well now. So, I mean, the sort of the doom and gloom narrative that the JP Morgans and Goldman Sachs are putting out around how ugly this market can become and how much of a recession they think is on the table. Like, yeah, all those risks are real, but you're really only feeling it in the context of tech, not necessarily in the context of the rest of the market. Sorry, guys, this StreamYard thing is being so stupid, dude. Every time I close my screen, I have to open like a new speaker scene. This is really annoying, but it's making me do that every single time. Anyway, that is kind of one of the core things that I wanted to show, which is that the broader markets this year, I mean, quite frankly, it ends up becoming that rotation thesis. I know we hate that word rotation, but like it is kind of turning out to be a pretty healthy rotation, and tech is the scapegoat for that rotation. Indeed, a rotation that we are seeing playing out currently right now. StreamYard works better when we're green. Yeah, they work better when they don't make stupid choices either. Like every time I close a tab, they say you have to open a new scene to become a speaker. It's like, what type of sometimes these companies try to like push too many features and it just ruins the experience. But regardless, maybe on a green day, StreamYard will work better. Bsoft says everyone sold lower in the morning just to buy higher at the end of the day. This is the way. Yeah. I mean, again, this is what we said in the morning, right? It's like, this is not the time to sell. This is like, I think a lot of you guys were in agreement with it. This is not the time to go super bearish. And if it is, you better have a really good reason outside of putting the pieces to the puzzle and looking at a trillion different data points, because that's never usually the best reason. I mean, there's got to be something super fundamental to get excited about selling and going into cash versus one survey from some random town that says inflation expectations are high. And I don't know if that fundamental reason is necessarily here yet outside of tariffs. But again, if April 2nd is not that big of a deal, then I think the market probably moves on from it. Red Cat's up 5% right now after hours. I think 4:30 is when we get their numbers. So this might be moving without their numbers. Gorilla right here is up 1.3%. It was up 18% during the day. So we'll see what happens when their earnings come out. But Red Cat currently up 5% right now after hours. Did you ever write that nasty email to StreamYard? You know, I haven't. I probably should. I just, whenever I think of doing it, I move on to something more important. See, look, I got rid of the screen, and now I have to manually go and click on another button just to make myself full screen. This is like so stupid. This is like ridiculous. This might actually get me to write the email. Like, that's just like, come on, bro. That is so non-intuitive for users. Okay, so 69% of you say no, you don't trust the green. So here's the question: if you don't trust the green, right here, do you think we make new lows for the year on April 2nd? Do you think we make new lows for the year on April 2nd? I'll go ahead and say no. And if we do, it'll be very brief. I don't think it's going to be that aggressive of a new low based on whatever the tariffs are announced for. But if they are new lows, then yeah, this is likely not going to be the best. Here's the Richman Fed president. Let's get his take on where he thinks the Fed is going with inflation and rates. And then we will keep going from there.
Let's start off with what we just heard, which is you had recently spoken about the fog that's out there on policy. Are you expecting Wednesday to have greater clarity?
Well, we'll see what we learn on Wednesday. I don't know any more than you do. But my sense is it's going to take a while before people know what rates are going to be imposed on what countries and what products, for how long, with what kind of retaliation. And then importantly, how do countries and businesses and consumers respond? So my base case is it'll take a while to get clarity here.
You've been on top of this issue of how companies respond from the very beginning of the pandemic. And you were one of the people who pointed out this idea that you thought there was pricing power after like 20 years when companies didn't have it. Mm-hmm. Where are we in this process? And does the idea that we just went through a period of inflation make you more concerned about prices going up more broadly beyond tariffs?
So I've been reflecting on 2019, 2022. In both cases, we had supply cost increases, 2019 tariffs, 2022, all the supply chain issues. In 2019, everything was anchored. I mean, businesses didn't think they could pass on price. Consumers didn't know what a price increase was. And we really didn't see a ton in terms of inflation. Go to 2022, where businesses just had the imperative they had to do something. Right. And consumers had the stimulus funds and other excess savings that they could use to spend it. I think this is very different this time on both dimensions. The suppliers I talk to are emboldened. They're saying very explicitly they're going to have to take it on. We're going to have to pass those prices on. The consumers are exhausted and frustrated and tired of paying high prices. Think of it as a cage match between a very strong, immovable force and an irresistible object. And I'm going to be very interested how this plays out. I'm not as convinced that people are going to be passed the tariffs on. I'm also not as convinced that there's not going to be inflation.
I want to show you our inflation outlook from the Rapid Update today. This is the average of the PCE, core PCE forecast of 14 Wall Street forecasters. You probably follow all of them, Goldman and JP Morgan and everybody. And when you look at it, you're at 3% at or near there for quite a while. Tell me where you feel comfortable cutting interest rates in an environment where, for example, by the third quarter, you still have a 3% core PCE, a percentage point above your target.
Well, let's start by saying these are forecasts, and their forecasts have been every bit as good as my forecast.
Right.
I mean, I think to cut rates, you'd have to get confidence on inflation. You'd have to get confidence that inflation is settling. You could get that confidence because it actually continues to settle. You could get that confidence because the economy is in such tough shape that you feel that whatever downturn you have will also settle inflation. Or I guess you could believe that these are just going to be one-time, 1 month, 2 month events and you're on the backside. But the core to me is it's all about inflation. And the higher the inflation numbers, the less likely are you going to see that.
And so they then go on to ask him, well, wait a second. Don't you feel that if it's only about inflation, why does the Fed predict 2 rate cuts? And quite frankly, he didn't really have an answer to that. He says, look, this is what the Fed is thinking currently. This is how they're navigating it. Gorilla, by the way, up 7%. Red Cat up about 2% right now. Newsmax up another 9% after hours. This is literally insanity, but it's approaching $90, $10 billion market cap. But he basically said, look, this is what the Fed is thinking. The Fed is thinking that we can assume that a good, healthy environment will be 2 rate cuts, but they don't really have enough logic to explain why. Now, my understanding of why the Fed is thinking of 2 rate cuts is not necessarily because inflation is coming down, because the Fed is not expecting inflation to really come down. It's because they think growth is going to slow down. And if growth slows down enough, then inflation will inevitably fall down, but they'll swoop in with rate cuts before we see that in the data, if they're able to get it right. The other argument for why the Fed is predicting two rate cuts is because the Fed doesn't know what the hell they're doing, which I'm also sympathetic to that argument because, I mean, yeah, like at this point, how how much does the Fed know than the average person around what's happening in the broader economy? So I don't know, dude. This is going to get really, really interesting after the tariffs. We know that Jay Powell did say that tariff inflation is transitory. I mean, if Trump goes the way that he's going, and based on everything I read today, and let's talk about the China stuff right now. Based on what's happening right now, if these things are not temporary, then yeah, this is going to be ugly. And this inflationary analysis by the Fed around it being transitory, it's probably not going to be transitory. So let's look at this story right here. We talked about China, Japan, and South Korea towards the end of the market open teaming up together to respond to Trump's tariffs, which to me was a horrible headline. Like, we don't want two of our biggest allies working with one of our biggest adversaries. But the Reuters article actually explains why they are working together. Japan and South Korea are seeking to import semiconductor raw materials from China, and China is also interested in purchasing chip products from Japan and South Korea, which is what one of the state-run media accounts said from China on their social media platform. All three sides agreed to strengthen supply chain cooperation and engage in more dialogue on export controls, the Post said. During Sunday's meeting, the country's trade ministers agreed to closely cooperate for comprehensive and high-level talks on a South Korea-Japan-China free trade agreement to promote regional and global trade, according to a statement released after the meeting. Again, I don't think anyone should like seeing this. Like, we should not like seeing South Korea, Japan, and China cozying up together to come up with a regional and global trade agreement that can meaningfully combat what the United States is going to impose on tariffs, which will affect all three countries, even if it's not directly, if they have to import materials when it comes to semiconductors. All three of them are going to be in the crosshairs of that. China definitely will be, because we know that Trump has tariffs for China. And it's just like, just from an objective point of view, if you don't believe that the CCP should be in bed with those two countries, even more than they already are, to combat the United States' tariff policy, yeah, it's aggressive. Now, granted, Trump is going to do Trump, and he's going to put on the tariffs because he feels that they're getting ripped off regardless of what South Korea, Japan, and China feel like doing together. But it is one of those things that makes it think twice about just like, all right, so I guess this is the new normal. They're going to be working together, even though we probably don't want them working together, which is why I think April 2nd, there's going to be some deals that are done to try to revert from that end up being the end goal of this administration, which is our allies and our adversaries work together. But if it's not, then, I mean, what are we going to do, right? If it's not, then this is the new economic paradigm that we're entering into. And this is just the way that the world is currently operating in right now. Will the trend become U.S. will be hated by countries worldwide? I don't think the U.S. will be hated by countries worldwide, especially because we give those countries a lot of money, and we protect them and we help their military, all that stuff. It's not like we are going to perpetually be funding some of these countries the way we have, given the cuts that are starting to come from a foreign aid perspective. But I think the money that we give to certain countries is probably, if it gets reduced, it's not necessarily going away. Like, we give money to Canada, we give money to the United Kingdom. Like, we're probably not going to stop giving them money, even if we reduce that money. So I think there's not going to be a widespread hatred, but there is going to be a level of animosity by a lot of the countries that feel isolated by the U.S. And one could argue that I'd rather feel their animosity than constantly give them more money and not have Americans at home feel taken care of. So you could definitely make that sort of, de facto America first argument that Trump makes. I think the problem is the headline we saw today, that when China, and I talked about this 3 weeks ago, and some of you guys in the chat thought it was a horrible theory, but this is a theory that's actually been talked about for a long time, and it had to do with China and Canada. And the idea is that if the United States is not the core Western ally that's promoting Western values, aka freedom of speech, etc., on some of these other countries, those other countries are not that strong enough for them to impose the values of free speech, Western values, et cetera, across the world. The reason we are able to say, hey, these values matter and no one's ever going to mess with these values is because we have the biggest military, we have the biggest economy, and we have the ability to defend ourselves, and we can defend those values. China also has a pretty big military and a pretty big economy, even if their economy is struggling, and they have the opposite values, which is, hey, if you say something bad about Xi Jinping, your head gets chopped off. And so from that perspective, it's like if China starts entering in to help some of the Western allies, like a Canada, like a South Korea, like a Japan, and slowly gets them to like them a lot more, and we isolate them more, which again, I don't think is really going to play out, but that's kind of one of the theories that people have on this whole America First agenda. That could be net bearish, not only for free trade, not only for markets, but for geopolitical instability worldwide. And it's something I think we got to keep our eye on it. We got to keep our eye on what China is doing and how different countries are engaging with China versus the United States. And not just China, Russia, etc. Like, we cannot isolate countries to an extent where they feel more comfortable talking to China than us. I don't know what foreign policy that is, but I don't think that's going to work out the best in the long term. Tesla right here down a little bit after hours. Bitcoin's up about 1.44%. Newsmax is now flat after hours. It was up 10%, so it just lost that 10% gain. Again, it's up 735% on the day, 83.51 in the context of Newsmax. There you go. What an IPO. What an IPO on the day. What's that book that you have in front of the Tech Republic behind you? It's actually not a book. It's I think we got this at AIPCon. It's not a book. It's this thing right here. It was included in the book. I don't think Karp actually signed this, but it's like his printed signature. It's a limited edition book from AIPCon. So there you go. But yeah, no other. Do I have any other books there? No. It's just it's literally just the Technological Republic. That is it. Dude, I have like 4 of these copies now. I got so many of these. I should give a couple of these away, dude, because I have more than enough books. I just got them from so many different places, including my own that I bought. So yeah, Karp pulled a Biden with the auto pen. Karp pulled a Biden. There you go. There is the auto pen right there. Dude, we got earnings coming up in probably 3 weeks for Palantir. This is going to be an exciting one. By the way, I also interviewed the head of Palantir's UK business, Louis Mosley, and that interview should be out hopefully later this week, probably in like 2 or 3 days. I think I told you guys about this on Friday. He was super ecstatic. He's just like, dude, we're just getting started. So that'll be a fun interview for everyone to see as well. Amit, will you ever complete that Rubik's Cube? You know, funny thing about the Rubik's Cube, I still don't know how to solve it, but in 7th grade, they had this program in my school where people were learning how to solve it. Not 7th grade, 5th grade. And that's when I got it, because all my friends were like solving it in a minute. I still never ended up like learning how to do it. But I know it's not that hard. Like, if you really commit yourself to learning it, there's like a bunch of YouTube videos that just teach you how to do a Rubik's Cube. Yeah, I never ended up figuring it out. But I should do that eventually. That should maybe get my mind off the markets. Okay, cool. So here's the next thing that I wanted to pull up. We talked about, well, actually, let's get this update right here on Tech Stocks, and then we'll keep going from there. A screwdriver can solve a Rubik's Cube easily. That is also true. Also, if you can take the stickers off, that can also solve it.
If I may call it, lag 7 down 12 out of the past 13 weeks, and all of those names down on the quarter. For example, Microsoft closed its 4th negative month in a row, something we haven't seen since 2009. And Nvidia having its worst month since September 2022. Big picture, the NASDAQ has really wiped out a little more than half of last year's gains this quarter versus the S&P 500, which only lost, losing less than 1/3 of last year's gains. You name the pick. Now, tariff uncertainty, AI momentum losing steam, upcoming earnings, they're all weighing on these names. There was some research just out from Trivariat that believes it could get worse, as analyst expectations have only modestly been revised down, about 1.6% lower for 2025, highlighting this disconnect, according to them, with bearish sentiment. So these earnings should come down a little bit more. And then while DeepSeek's emergence created headwinds for U.S. tech, it simultaneously highlighted Chinese AI progress. This dynamic has really benefited Chinese internet companies, including Baidu, Alibaba, Tencent, Xiaomi, which you can see on your screen.
And this goes back to the geopolitical point around China. It's like their AI is ramping up to become competitive with Nvidia, OpenAI, etc. And then they're using some of our allies to start making political alliances to deal with tariffs. You put 2 and 2 together, it could get to the point where China has a lot more strength than they currently have right now.
Of green, as well as traditional telecom providers like AT&T, up 24% on the quarter, which have really also outperformed broader market benchmarks. And then one winner, I wanted to find one winner, that would be billionaire investor David Tepper. His last 13F filing, so I know it's backwards looking, showed his two largest positions in Chinese names were Alibaba and JD.com, representing 20% of his portfolio. I'm sure he's happy. He's made a lot more money. As Wall Street's tech darlings do fall from grace, yesterday's overlooked sectors really are just quietly stealing the spotlight in this market reversal, guys. Morgan?
All right, Christina Part.
So again, tech stocks have primarily been benefiting across the entire world. So if you've been overweight Europe or China, you've done well. If you took Tepper's advice, I think we were all live the day he said to dump everything and buy China. I did not take that advice. If you took that advice, you've done very well. But China has done well. Europe has done well. European defense contractors have done well. Consumer staples, utilities have done well in the United States. The one thing that hasn't done well is tech, which is why I feel like tech is a buy. Like buying a lot of the names that have already done well year to date. To me, like it's not exciting to get into Rheinmetall right now or to Alibaba. 2 months ago it was. And you know, if you got into them, then you had great insight. But if you didn't, I don't know if chasing them on the upside necessarily makes that much sense. Amid, how are you holding up with this volatility? I barely slept last night. Okay, so I slept for 7 hours last night, and then I woke up at 12 a.m. and I slept for another 7 hours. So your boy is definitely getting a lot of... It's because I had puts, guys. I had puts on everything. I had puts on the entire market. I had puts since January. I didn't tell anybody. I had so many puts, and these puts are printing. That's why I can sleep good. No, I'm just kidding. I actually wish I had the balls to buy that many puts. The reason is because I just feel like a lot of this is not fundamental base. I really don't think it is. And I think a lot of you guys would agree with me. I think a lot of this volatility is from the stupid tariff headline. That's it. Are there some fundamentals that are scary in the economy? Yes, of course. Auto loan applications getting rejected at their highest rate. Yes, that's not the best. The relationship between rates and inflation, PCE being higher than expected, that's not the best. You can point to mortgage applications being lower than being about 50% lower than they were 2 years ago. The average price of a home being at $440,000, that's up 50% from 4 years ago. Yes, there's all these different like arguments around why things are scary, but none of them fundamentally mean that Nvidia deserves to be trading at 105 or Google deserves to be trading at 150. I think it's pure headlines. I really do. And those headlines are real headlines. I'm not saying those are fake headlines, but they are indeed headlines. And on Wednesday, April 2nd, we will figure out how real the headlines are. But if this is like you feel like there's a recession coming, the easiest way to sleep well at night is to sell everything and just be in cash. But we know that's not how it works. And we know that trying to time it and predict, like all that stuff is a losing game. And it's in the biggest hedge fund managers in the world can't do that. So the way you don't lose sleep over this is you just remember that like a lot of this is driven not by fundamentals, but by the external implications of tariffs, which can become fundamental, but as of now are not fundamental yet. Also, another way to resolve it is sell some covered calls, right? And if you really need to buy some puts, yeah, you can buy some puts, but selling some covered calls is also not the worst in the world, just bringing some premium as we navigate this. I haven't sold calls on Nvidia here. I think it's, I don't know, maybe I'll be wrong on this, but I think when Nvidia tends to be below 115, selling the covered call, there's too much of a bounce that could happen. So there's always a better time to sell the call. So I think a little bit more of a bounce and then selling the covered call on Nvidia makes sense. Same thing with Hood, but at these levels probably wouldn't. But I mean, look, if you had covered calls on Amazon, Google, anything, you've not done bad, and it's at least helped against some of the volatility that we're seeing right now. Like, I don't think people should be losing sleep over this market, dude. I just don't. I think you've got to be insanely leveraged, or you've got to be like insanely leveraged. You got to be like maxed out on margin and getting margin called there has to be something that you've done to the portfolio outside of just buying a stock that's higher than what it is today that's keeping you up at night. Because this is not a market where earnings growth is going down the drain and where you feel screwed like it's 2022. Yeah, you got to be a little bit of a pussy. Like that's what I'm trying to say in a more politically correct way. Like you've got to be so freaking scared of the market while it's already down 10% today, and that things are going to get so bad. And this is why most people sell into the lows, because you've got to be super aggressive with the nature of upside when Palantir's at 125 or when Hood's at 65 or when Tesla's at 480 to sell, right? You got to be able to call BS at those moments And then when things are going to shit, you got to be able to realize that everyone's trying to call BS on this, which is when you don't call BS and you buy. If you can't do one or the other, and most, realistically both at the same time, because that's what it takes to like time the market, which I definitely don't know how to do, then I don't think you should be losing sleep at night. Dude, freaking what's her name? Pelosi's down what is it, 50 million, I think is the headline that I saw. Or no, 2 million. 50 million is too aggressive. But she's down a bunch of money as well. And so, yeah, 2 million. She's down 2 million today. I mean, she's stuck in a lot of these same trades. Nvidia, Google, Amazon, like all of these, she's also getting hit with as well. And so, yeah, you're not the dumbest person in the world if you are down on some of the best companies in the world like Nvidia, Google, and Amazon. However, Google and Amazon are only up 2% over the past 5 years. So I do feel like those are more lucrative opportunities than they were in the beginning of the year. I was feeling sorry for her this morning. Oh my gosh. How's Derek? Derek's doing good. Derek is like knee deep into his startup and he's just grinding at that all day. He's been making a lot of progress on that. So, I mean, does he care about the market? Sure. But he has something to distract himself, which is his startup, right? So I don't think he's like obsessed with the markets that much. I don't know what he's done with Tesla though. I got to ask him because I know he bought a bunch of 220. I mean, Derek likes the swing trade, so he might have already sold it already. So I'll ask him. I'll let you guys know. But at this point, I think having a distraction is also really important in the midst of all this red. Yeah, Google and Amazon, they're only up from, if you look at their 2021 highs, right? Amazon, it's really interesting, dude. If you look at this, Amazon's 2021 high was November 2021 high was 181. Right now it's 190. Today it was at 185. Google is up about 4%. Or now it's 4%. It was 2% in the morning. So, I mean, if you didn't DCA Google and Amazon from that 2021 top all the way down, it's been dead money. But if you DCA'd, which, I mean, look, they both went through 40% retracements. Worse than that, Amazon went through a 50%. It went back down to like 80. Then, yeah, those would have been decent dip buys as well. Here's another thing that popped up on X today, which I thought was pretty interesting. Elon Musk's baby mama, Ashley St. Clair. I don't know if this was for publicity or not, but she's selling her Tesla. And she's selling it. Well, I'll let her explain why she's selling it.
Selling it because I need to make up for the 60% cut that Elon made to our son's child support.
Why do you think that he did that?
That's a great question for him.
You feel like he was sort of like vindictive against you in some way?
Yeah, that's his modus operandi when women speak out.
When was the last time that you spoke to him or tried to speak to him?
February 13th.
That's the actual reason she's selling her Tesla. If you guys noticed that. The reason she's selling her Tesla was the question the reporter asked, which is, hey, when's the last time you spoke to him? February 13th. Dude, she's mad that she didn't get a Valentine's Day gift. I'm telling you, it's pretty simple. Pretty simple. You don't get a Valentine's gift? Well, you might end up selling your whole damn car. So, yeah, it's definitely for publicity. I mean, like, look, I don't think she's actually selling her car because she needs child support. I don't think that's the case. It's more for publicity, but it's another thing that Elon has to deal with now in terms of the publicity that he's going through as like not being the best father, yada, yada. Red Cat, by the way, down 5% right here. Let me see if I can get their numbers. Gorilla's up 4%. But that was another headline that had to deal with Tesla. I don't know if Steve can call in, guys. Again, this man has been in meetings for the past couple of weeks. I will try to see if he can call in, but I'm not sure he officially can. Let me see if Red Cat should have their numbers officially right now. Let's see if this pops up. Don't have it yet. Let's see. Steve has baby mama trouble too. It's probably. Okay, so it looks like they are guiding for 80 million of revenue for 2025. That's what we got in the context of Red Cat. 80 to 120 million for calendar year 2025. And they break down the way they're going to get these sales. About 65 million theoretically could be from Black Widow. That's one of their core drones. 25 million is in non-SRR Black Widow sales. See, again, this is just it's a small company. I don't know that much about it. If you buy the stock, again, you are buying potential. They did about 5 million in their transition period of revenue as per the last 8 months. They ended the year with about 10 million bucks in cash. They raised about 6 million bucks and they're guiding for about 120 million in revenue. Now, granted, the company is only worth 500 million. If they're going to be doing 120 million in revenue, that's not a crazy price to sales to be paying if they're growing fast. I don't know what their growth rate is. I got to check that. Currently down about 5% after hours on this news. But there's the update for Red Cat. Market cap here, just under $1 billion. Where were they at the top? I think they were at they got to $15. That's when they got a lot of people excited. This was back in January. So this was when a lot of small caps, Fartcoin, etc., everything was ripping higher. And that's when we saw a lot more momentum there. Look at CleanSpark. CLSK. Oh, that's down. Wow. It's down below 7. Goodness gracious, dude. The Bitcoin miners. Oh, Marathon's raising another $2 billion to buy Bitcoin, by the way. They were down 8% of the day, but they will be raising more money to buy Bitcoin. Okay, Steve said he can call back in a sec. All right, let me know. Did you see the Elon Musk response? No. Did Elon respond to her? Oh, that's interesting. I wonder what Elon said to that. Open Door is at $1 now. Holy crap, dude. I was looking at this thing. I was looking at it in December with Steve and Chris. I was trying to see if there's anything there. Oh shit, here's what Elon said. But now Open Door is down here. Elon said, I don't know if the child is mine or not, but I am not against finding out. No court order is needed. Despite not knowing for sure, I have given Ashley $2.5 million and I'm sending her $500,000 a year. Damn. That's wild, bro. Elon's like, yeah, I don't know if the kid's mine or not, but I mean, I think he definitely thinks the kid is his. Who sends someone 2.5 million and 500,000 a year if that's not their kid, right? Like, pretty sure he has a hunch that the kid is his, which is why he's sending the money. But I guess eventually we'll find out what happens there. Yeah, that was dude, as soon as I saw the headline when she's selling her Tesla, I'm like, okay, this is like, there's no way you're selling a Tesla to raise money to deal with the lack of child support here. But it's another thing that Elon has to deal with in this crazy market, not only with Doge, not only with Tesla, but now some of this stuff as well. When the baby started reading at 3 weeks old, yeah, that's definitely Elon's. Okay, let me pull this up right here. Amit, let's assume earnings picture changes. At what point would you turn bearish, and how would you react in the face of it, assuming the market discounts it ahead of time? Well, so I think it's a great question. I think the earnings picture has to meaningfully change to the point where it becomes obvious that earnings are about to fall down the drain. I don't expect that in Q1. Now, granted, I haven't seen the earnings. It's just based on my intuition here, but yeah, I think we have to react to it the way we react. I mean, like if Nvidia misses their numbers, if Meta misses their numbers, if Google misses, and we're not just talking about small misses that you can ignore like 1%, but we're talking about meaningful misses, then it starts to feel like 2022. Because in 2022, I remember around this time when the market had already bounced a couple times, just like we've been in so far, that's when you got the Meta quarter when it went from 340 to 220. Like that was the answer. It was like, okay, yeah, it's bad. It's really bad. But we were raising rates into that environment. Now we're supposed to be cutting rates, and I doubt we're raising rates any further as well. So the idea that we have the macro that is so against us, along with earnings growth that is so bad when you put those two together to give you the 2022 type of year that the Bears are asking for. AKA, as Doug says right here, when you see margins compress. I don't know if that's happening, bro. Even on the consumer companies, I don't know if that's happening. I know Delta has given some crappy guidance, whatever, but then Carnival Cruise gave the best guidance they've ever had in the history of being a company. So it's like there's a lot of different moving parts here in terms of the narrative. Also, there's a lot of companies that use consumer confidence as a scapegoat. I mean, the amount of companies in 2022 that were actually shitty companies or just had shitty earnings. Let's not say they were shitty companies, but their earnings were not good, and they were blaming the Russia-Ukraine war. Like, if you look back at Q2 2022 earnings, this was I think 5 months after the Russia-Ukraine war broke out. That was like one of the biggest things. If you command F'd Russia-Ukraine on the earnings transcripts, a lot of CEOs were mentioning, yeah, this is creating supply chain issues. For some of them, it was legit. For others, it was like, bro, like, no, people just don't want to buy Starbucks right now. It has nothing to do with Russia-Ukraine. So yeah, I think my reaction to that, and based on if I'm long or if I sell, would primarily be rooted in how bad is the picture, how ugly is the earnings picture. Because if it's a slight decrease from earnings estimates, which I'm already expecting, the market's already expecting, then I think you stay long. Like, all right, Nvidia is going to do, I'm just making these numbers up, 145 billion in revenue versus 152 billion. Okay, that's a $7 billion revenue miss. Does that meaningfully change the trajectory for Nvidia? I don't think so. Now, if Nvidia says, hey, next year we're expected to grow 45%, we're growing 10%. Yes, then it's like, all right, shit hit the fan. You got to get the hell out because it's going to get ugly. But if there is not a story like that, Target back down to COVID lows. Yeah, Target had some bad headlines this morning as well from a couple banks. If there's not headlines like that, I don't think earnings can be bad enough to exit the market. Especially given where sentiment is, which I think is disgusting. I mean, if you just scroll through Twitter, the amount of bearishness that I'm seeing, it's like it's worse than even August 5th, dude. It's like people are really trying to call a recession here. And when everyone tries to call the recession, I don't know, dude. Like, a recession usually happens when no one's expecting it, not when everyone's like, all right, time for a recession because of April 2nd. I don't necessarily think that's the easiest way to describe it. The fear now is very high versus the unknown reality, whereas in 2021, 2022, the euphoria was high and the disillusionment came after reality. I think that's a perfect way to describe it. I also think right here, the fear is high because of unknowns, whereas in 2022, the fear was high because of what we knew. And what did we knew? We knew the Fed was raising rates. What we know, and that's just bad for everything, right? It's bad for equities. It's bad for consumer confidence. It's bad for trying to get a mortgage. It's bad for getting an auto loan. It's not good. And everyone knows it's not good. And you could somewhat make a prediction that if rates keep getting raised as high as they are, it's time to sell. The one problem in 2022, and I didn't really understand the stock market as well. In particular, I didn't understand rates as well and like the relationship with inflation. But I remember in 2022, everyone thought the last rate hike would be the last rate hike. AKA, we kept raising 25 bips every FOMC meeting, and everyone was like, all right, that's it. We're done. We didn't end up getting the last absolute rate hike until April 2023, because July we paused. Did we raise again in September? I don't know if we raised again in September. But the point is, it took another year and a half for us to stop raising rates. And that was the uncertainty back then. It's like we always thought every time would be the last. It ended up being the second to last or third to last. And that's what made things so bad, along with earnings growth coming down. That was the unknown. Now the unknown has nothing to do with earnings. It has to do with tariffs. And maybe tariffs mess up earnings. But as of now, this unknown is not about if Meta is going to put up good numbers, which was a legitimate fear because of rates and because of the macro environment back in 2022. Now it's a question of, all right, how is Meta going to navigate tariffs? And are tariffs really going to tank Meta's growth estimates? And the point is, I just think no one has an answer to that yet. But hopefully we will get an answer. SoFi right here, 1161 after hours. Tesla's down about 0.2%. Amazon's down 0.17. S&P 500 down about 0.23 as well. David says, I agree there will be a huge housing crash and tariffs will be on the back burner. Okay, so the housing crash stuff, again, I have not done my due diligence on this. I just haven't had the time yet. I'm hoping this week to spend some real hours looking into what the hell is going on with the housing market. The picture I'm getting right now from the very few articles I've read is that it's ugly based on the types of people that have loans, which, yes, sounds very similar to 2008. Is it anywhere near 2008? From my elementary understanding of what's going on in the housing market, no, not at all. It's not strippers have 5 mortgages, etc. But it's not the best. And as a result of it not being the best, if that ends up being something we have to worry about, along with the tariff volatility, along with a pseudo stagflationary environment where inflation's not slowing down, but growth is slowing down, then I think you could put those 3 together to come up with a meaningful bearish thesis. But I don't know exactly if that's how it's playing out right now. But yeah, the housing market is definitely something that I think is interesting. And it's funny, my dad's trying to sell his investment property right now. He bought it in 2009 and he's trying to sell it now. And I think I told you guys this a couple of days ago, a couple of the houses on the street where he's selling his reduced their prices. So, I mean, that might also be something that I think that's what really got my attention. I was like, all right, so like people are lowering their prices. That means they're adjusting to market demand. Market demand wasn't as high as before. Why is market demand not that high? And it might be because of a little bit of an issue in the housing market. So I think that definitely just requires some investigation. Gatekeeper says, I think my 2.875% mortgage rate is my biggest investment win in life so far. I agree. I think my parents got it at 3.2 for this house, or 3.5. And dude, anyone who locked in that damn rate, that's what the government should have been doing. We should have been issuing a ton of debt when rates were low. Don't know why we didn't do it, but now we're issuing debt where rates are literally 10x higher than before. And I don't know, we're having to pay for it. Now, where did the 10-year end on the day? The 10-year, Trump is supposed to be talking today. I don't know when. They said 5:30, but it's probably not going to be 5:30. I don't even think it's going to be live. It's probably going to be quotes we get from news reporters. The 10-year right here at 4.211. So I don't think we're going to get Trump actually speaking live, but he is said to be speaking at 5:30 about tariffs. Not sure if he's actually going to be speaking about it, though. Let's get an update from Stacy, good analyst at Bernstein, his thoughts on semis and current valuations before April 2nd, and then we will go from there.
Morgan Private Bank U.S. equity strategist Abby Yoder and Bernstein's top chip analyst Stacy Rasgon. It's great to have you both with us. Stacy, I'll go to you first simply because we could have the lowest close of the year for Nvidia. When does the issue stop here? I mean, and what is the key problem right now, do you think?
Yeah, there's a few things going on. So, I mean, clearly AI, sentiment has deteriorated to the start of the year. The DeepSeek news was probably the trigger for it, although it's...
As he says that, if you missed the headline when we started the show, ChatGPT added 1 million users in 1 hour today, which is probably frying up their NVIDIA GPUs even more. So as AI sentiment in the investor community has bottomed, ChatGPT is getting 1 million people to try out what a large language model is in 1 hour for the first time today. So I think we have to remember investor sentiment bad, but overall AI use case is still ramping up to a lot of new users.
It's sort of funny that the only thing that's really happened from a demand standpoint since DeepSeek sort of came on the scene was demand going up, like not down, but it's clearly pressured sentiment. I think on top of that, when you start to layer in tariffs and just general like geopolitical uncertainty, I mean, it's hit a lot of stocks, but a lot of the AI names were also like high flying. And, given the increased uncertainty around spending environments and recessions and everything else, it's hit a lot of them pretty severely. So Nvidia, as well as most of the other high-flying AI names, have had a tough quarter.
Does it feel to you like they've corrected enough?
Yeah, I mean, if the numbers are anywhere close to being correct, like the valuations mostly across the board are pretty attractive. If you look at pretty much all of the AI names, whether it's Nvidia or AMD or even Marvell or some of the others, they're all now trading kind of in the low, Broadcom, they're trading in the low 20s. If you believe in sort of the secular theme around AI, I think those are incredibly attractive valuations. The worry is clearly that people are uncertain about the earnings, right? So I don't know. I mean, that is sort of the big question. I would say right now, at least the demand environment still looks really, really strong. Just to pick on Nvidia, like I think they're going to sell everything that they can get out the door this year. So that just becomes the question: how much can they get out the door? But at this point, I would say like the only ones that really seem to be worried about the AI like demand environment seem to be investors, like the companies that are actually doing the spending right now. Their capex forecasts and requirements and everything, they're going up, not down. So yeah, I think if the numbers are anywhere close to right, these valuations are very attractive.
I cannot agree more, dude. I mean, I think he is spot on. I think investors uniquely are the most afraid of what's going on with AI and Nvidia right now. It's not actually users. I mean, again, dude, like this is why I made a big deal out of this when we started the show, this ChatGPT news. This is not supposed to happen. 1 million people are not supposed to randomly try out a new product, especially when that product is not native to what they've been used to engaging with when it comes to consumer-facing products, aka a large language model. Like, we are so early in the broader world discovering what an LLM is. Like, I was talking to my sister the other day. She works with coaching teachers as she's an administrator in a high school. And she told me she's been using GPT for like drafting up emails and lesson plans and curriculum and all this random stuff. And I'm like, huh. So like, she's finding her use case. My mom uses ChatGPT every day. My dad actually yesterday, he asked me a question and I typed it into Grok. I forgot what the question was, but I was sitting with him and he was like, "Oh, you're asking ChatGPT?" And it was funny because he has no idea what Grok is, right? Because he doesn't use Grok, but he knows what ChatGPT is. And so I think ChatGPT is becoming the de facto brand of AI. And that's kind of bearish for Grok and Gemini, but that's really bullish for NVIDIA regardless, because whether it's Gemini, Grok, ChatGPT, it doesn't matter. They all depend on NVIDIA. But part of the reason OpenAI is probably raising at $300 billion is because everyone associates AI with ChatGPT. And then when you get deep into it, you're probably like, okay, I like Grok better, I like Anthropic better, I like Gemini better. But the far majority of people, they just use whatever is given to them. And GPT is the first thing they get introduced to. Having said that, the implication on NVIDIA is when you have that many millions of people discovering AI for the first time. Perplexity, they're about to raise $1 billion in funding. Like it means those GPUs are in more demand, and the inference training, which was the whole DeepSeek revolution or innovation that they built for $6 million, that should lead to more compute. And I know I've said this over and over again. Jensen said this over and over again, but on days like this, I feel like this is when you either believe in that thesis or you don't. And I don't think price action of NVIDIA should be the barometer on if you believe in that thesis or if you don't. I think you got to have your own conviction there. And, as much as I have conviction, seeing OpenAI get 1 million users in an hour, like, that only deepens your conviction, dude, because getting 1 million people to try getting 1,000 people to try anything new in 60 minutes is insane. Like, there had to be so much virality around this photo image trend that got 1 million people across the world to say, I want to check out what ChatGPT is. And if that continues to grow, I just think that should still lead NVIDIA to go higher. You could still agree NVIDIA cyclical or whatever, but cyclical at 104 is a lot different than cyclical at 180, which is still my price target for NVIDIA if we put up 450 of EPS with a 40 PE if the market is willing to give us a 40 PE. A decade from now, we will use more chips for less chips, robotics, self-driving, AI, etc. Yeah, I agree. What was the catalyst? It was that image trend I talked about in the morning that I'm probably saying wrong. Ghibli or whatever it's called. That thing went super viral. It's this freaking trend that like turns you into a cartoon. It just happened over. I think this started on like last Tuesday or something. Ghibli, that's how you say it, Ghibli. And this thing went crazy viral. Like everyone was like just putting their pictures into Ghibli. And it's so funny because it's like Instagram, Flickr, all these random social media startups back in 2010, they went viral off of like filters on photos. And it seems like times have not changed. Now the biggest AI startup in the world, ChatGPT, is going viral based on an image filter photo trend, which is pretty hilarious. How do you say this thing? You guys saying Ghibli? I've never heard of this before, bro. I don't know what Ghibli or Ghibli is. The first time I heard of it was all these photos that people are posting on X. So, no, I've never heard of this. I guess you guys have heard. I've never heard of Ghibli. Apparently, it's some artist and they're like using his style or whatever, but I've never heard of it. Mike says, so ChatGPT invested $300 billion to generate photos. Great progress, super bullish. I think that's missing the point. I think photos are just like a use case that's getting people excited. But the point is, if you're a brand new person who doesn't know what an LLM is, and you sign up for ChatGPT because your friend wants you to put some photo into this new filter, and then you realize, oh, I can ask this thing questions. This thing could help me with my homework. Yeah, like when you go down that discovery channel, which a lot of us as investors have gone through because we're investing in AI and tech, but a lot of the average population have not even thought about interacting with an LLM. I think when you go down that route, you start to realize there's some value here, and you probably become a weekly active user, if not a monthly active user, if not a daily active user, all because of that one use case. So yeah, to me, it's just a marketing funnel, and again, the use cases are ramping up, as Sam Altman talked about over the past couple of days, and it's frying their GPUs. If we ignore that, then I think we're just ignoring the inevitable demand that is coming Nvidia's way. Nvidia right here down about 0.4% after hours. Microsoft is flat. Verizon's down a little bit. Celsius gaining some more momentum and is currently green after hours. Yeah, like videos are next, right? Like videos are, I said this morning, I think videos are definitely next. I think when you get a trend that puts your face in a video or something, or animates a video, like there's going to be so many of those being created. I don't even think OpenAI could handle that scale, much less Grok or Gemini right now. And again, I used Gemini over the weekend. It's getting a lot better. I used 2.5. I had it summarize some YouTube videos for me, make some notes for some stuff. Like it was really good. And I think that's only going to be improving more and more. The real question is, when can we buy puts on Newsmax, dude? This thing's down 7% after hours. Like there's no way this thing IPOs and debuts up 730% by the end of the year. Like, does anyone think this thing actually holds 730% by the end of the year? I'm a bit skeptical of that, bro. That may be how we save our portfolios this year, dude. We just load up on puts on Newsmax. That's how we save the port this year. Trump messed us up with Newsmax, or Trump messed us up with tariffs. Maybe Newsmax ends up saving it. Newsmax, dude, I didn't even know they were IPOing today. It caught me so off guard, and it was up 200%. I was like, okay, that's aggressive. Then it was up 300. I was like, okay, let me post about it. Then it was up 600 after I pressed send. Like literally an hour later, it was up 6. I was like, oh, there's a cult around this. There has to be. Now, I think there's only 75 million shares outstanding, so that also could be the reason why it's trading the way it's trading. It's a very low float. But it definitely shows some risk-on appetite here today. Yeah, they were founded in 1998. 10 years. They're like a smaller version of Fox News is the easiest way I would describe them. And they were up 800% on the day. No way Newsmax is a cult. Dude, I can't explain going up 8x in a day unless there's some secret Reddit forum like pumping this thing. Yeah, Corey's looking at it like, hey, can we come up with a cult? Like, it is very weird to kind of see its performance like this. Okay, cool. Let's see, what other headlines do we have? I think that's some of the main ones for the day. We talked about the stifle rating in the morning around Tesla. Oh, Truist, by the way, upgraded Celsius. It wasn't JP Morgan. Truist updated them to $45. And that's what helped them this morning as well. S&P again recovered throughout the end of the day, was up about 0.5% after being down about 3%. Trump is not live yet. I don't know when he's going to go live, but he'll probably say something that screws the markets again. And then we got one more day left until April 2nd. It's so crazy. This one day is like having all this hype. And that's another reason why it makes me feel like we're bottoming. Because like really everything, Gorilla, by the way, down 8% right here after the earnings. Red Cat is down about 2%. All this hype for one freaking day where Trump speaks at the Rose Garden. I mean, like, what is he really going to say that the market has not priced in yet is my question. And is it going to be that disgusting in the context of how the market reacts, or are we going to quickly overlook it? Which, I mean, look, no one knows, but I think there's a better shot we overlook it than for it to be that different than what we thought of before. Yeah, Steve still cannot make it, guys. He just texted me right now. He's still in a meeting. He called me at like 12 p.m., but we weren't live during that time. I'll try to officially get him on tomorrow. I'll try to get him to clear up his schedule because I know he wants to come on and talk about a lot of different things. I also would not put it against me for him to say he bought Nvidia today. I don't know if he officially sold SoFi to buy Nvidia because I know that's what he was thinking of doing. By the way, I saw the SoFi Weekly where Tanner, Roy, honestly, all four of them. Steve actually made it. So Tanner, Roy, Steve, and Tevez basically just shitted on SoFi for an hour. But I thought they shitted on SoFi in an intellectual way. They did it in the context of product velocity compared to Robinhood. I think the comments were very unfair. Very unfair. Comments were like, these are paid shills from Robinhood. I'm like, guys, like, Tanner and Roy have been bullish for over a year. There's no paid shilling going on here. I mean, these are some of the most objective guys I know. In fact, they've criticized Robinhood many, many times. I think they're just upset at SoFi's product release. Oh, speaking of SoFi, Noto did say something today. Some people interpreted this as bearish. I don't, quite frankly. I just don't. And I'll tell you why I don't. So this guy right here put on Twitter, Noto interacts way more than you guys think. And if he doesn't, he definitely sees everything you guys post. More motivation for SoFi team. Keep bringing it. The best is yet to come. The show goes on. And this is based on Noto liking a post that someone said about SoFi. And Noto said, I see and read every word. The reason that's not bullish to me is because if he sees and reads every word, then maybe he would actually interact with the creators that are posting about his company in a very sophisticated way. I mean, we're talking about creators that have dedicated, at this point, years of analysis to SoFi stock. So, I mean, don't tell me you see and read every word, and then you don't want to talk to any of the SoFi shareholders that have been advocating for your stock for so long. I mean, like, that to me is like, okay, cool. Like, you see everything, but you're just a lurker. You're seeing everything, but you're not going to say anything. Like, dude, that day and age is over. Like, we are in a new world when it comes to media. Your 5-minute little segment on CNBC where you say nothing of relevance because you only have 5 minutes to talk is not the way media is going to be decided on, and definitely not the way that stocks are going to be able to gain momentum on if they are pursuing a media strategy to get investors to be associated with them in the future. There's just no way. There's no way. Matt, oh, I forgot. Matt's out of SoFi. Matt did say that he's officially out of SoFi. Waiting for him to respond to my SoFi sale. Yeah, I mean, even if Alex Chris of PayPal is willing to do an interview with Roy, Alex Chris, PayPal, not the sexiest company in the world, but still, there is a decent following of people that care about PayPal. Roy was one of the first people back in 2023 when it was at $40 to really start talking about it. If Alex Chris has 30 minutes to talk to Roy, you're telling me Noto doesn't have 15 minutes to talk to Tanner? Come on, bro. Like, come on, dude. Like, it's just, I don't know. I don't even think it's nitpicking. I think it's one of those things where it's like, don't post on social if you're not actually going to interact with the people that are on social. Having said that, I'm not selling my SoFi. I'm still in SoFi. I think the loan platform will do well. This is just something that a lot of people are annoyed about in terms of their strategy communicating with investors, but I don't think that necessarily is bearish. I would wait a little bit to get really excited to buy SoFi again just to see their product velocity, but I think everyone's getting a little bit too bearish here. And yes, there's some good reason to get bearish on SoFi, but there's not a reason to necessarily say, all right, SoFi's dead, because it's not dead. It's just like people will expect a little bit more out of them, which I think is fair. By the way, Vlad did a new interview today. Let's look at about 3 minutes of this. This is Vlad specifically talking about the Robinhood banking product. I saw this interview come out like 20 minutes ago. So let's get an update from here, and then we'll keep going.
And 3 different new verticals out of Robinhood were announced: Robinhood Strategies, Robinhood Banking, and then Robinhood Cortex. So maybe we can kind of go one by one through these things, and maybe you can talk about the motivations for building each one of these verticals. I think let's start with Robinhood Banking, because I think that's the product that I think is the most interesting to me. So give me the details on that and what motivated that creation of that product line in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, the overall inspiration for the gold event is we want to give all of our customers the same access, opportunities, and strategies that a high net worth individual would have. Their team of financial experts that help them with their financial life. So high net worth individuals have private bankers, they have investment advisors, they have research assistants that help them scour the entire world, private and public, for opportunities. And with technology, we can actually provide the value of a lot of these services to customers for a very, very low fee. So that's kind of the North Star. We want to put a sophisticated, high net worth, family office like financial team into everyone's pocket and give it to our gold subscribers for as little as $5 a month. And I think that's sort of like the promise of something like the iPhone applied to financial services. How can you give someone a luxury product, a product that, you know, people are proud to use and be associated with because it's high end, but can you offer that at a price point that makes it truly accessible to everyone, where everyone just sees the extreme value? And so that's the thread behind the three products we announced at the gold event.
Cool. So if you want to watch the full thing, I'll leave the link right here in the chat. You can check it out. I haven't watched the full thing. I didn't even hear that segment on banking. I just saw that he did the interview before I went live. And so I thought we could listen to a little bit of it. I think he'll be doing a lot more of these in the future as he continues to engage with the media on all the new things they announced. But even that, look at the difference between Vlad and Noto. Vlad just did an entire conference at their gold event. Not even a week later. We're talking about, what, 4 days later, he's doing a podcast about everything they just announced. Like, to me, that's just like embracing media in a totally different way. Someone said right here that Noto is running an actual real chartered bank, not a casino like Hood, different levels of professionalism. Tell me what is unprofessional about doing a podcast like that. Like, for Noto to sit down and do a podcast for 40 minutes and answer some really good questions by a DDI or a Tanner or a Tevis or a Roy. He probably wouldn't do a podcast with me because he probably doesn't like me, but like, how is that unprofessional for 45 minutes to do a Zoom podcast and for it to be posted on you? Like, that's, he needs to be on CNBC only to be able to talk to the media. That's the definition of professional. I think that's the definition of stupid. Because if you think that the way to access the media is by doing 5 minutes with Jim Cramer, like, no, dude, you're going to get your face ripped off. That's not how this works. Yeah, great comment by Matt. The president of the United States literally became the president by doing podcasts. And we're talking about it's unprofessional for Noto to talk to his supporters. I mean, dude, this isn't GameStop talking to some random lunatic on Reddit that's trying to pump the stock. This is Noto, in my example, talking to Tanner, who is pretty damn sophisticated in his SoFi analysis and very objective about SoFi. That is like, that's not him interacting with some meme stock gambler that just wants to pump the stock. That's just like the right thing to do. Like, especially given all the momentum that Tanner and the SoFi community have provided in terms of market share around the brand of SoFi. So yeah, to me, that makes no sense. That makes absolutely no sense. Like, Noto is not that special to not do podcasts. And if you think you're that special to not talk to the media, I mean, if you're building anything, you always need media attention, always. And you want to hope you get more media attention that's good versus bad, but you need to have a relationship with the media. There's just no way. I mean, look at the one thing I will say about the Trump administration. They have like 17 different accounts on Twitter that are like verified by the Trump media team that are posting constantly. I mean, they are like every single second of the day. They have clips of Besant and Lutnick and Trump and the press secretary, and they're trying to make sure that the message gets across, and they're using new media to embrace that. So I think SoFi doing that would be kind of no different than what everyone else is using. Google's not down 4.5%. That's definitely a Yahoo glitch. Yahoo and Google Finance themselves have made that glitch many times. Yeah, Google's down 0.28%. Not down 4.5. If Google was down another 4%, bro, after this freaking 20% correction, I feel like we would have some issues. We would have some issues if Google goes down that much again. It's obvious which of the two are tapped into their clients based on the products they roll out. Hood adoption is way better on their products, as usually shown in their average revenue per user. Yeah, and again, SoFi, they're a smaller company than Hood in regards to the amount of users they have, but still, the interaction with their users should be pretty strong. By the way, Tanner said this in his latest video. I even forgot that he asked Vlad about this, but he said the credit card holders are high FICO, average 700. I don't know if that's confirmed or not, and maybe we'll get some more clarity on the earnings call. But the average of the 100,000 credit card holders, which should become 200,000 by the end of the week based on Robinhood's announcements, have a 700 FICO score, which is really good. Like, really good. That means they're not getting the worst of the worst people that are going to default and go delinquent. They have people that are actually going to be able to pay their credit down, which is why they've been so slow to roll out the credit card. I mean, I know they're taking a long time, but like, they want to do it the right way. And I think scaling that throughout the year will be important as well. Did your dad get the performance Model Y? We got the performance all-wheel drive. So yes, the answer is yes to that. Yes, performance all-wheel drive. That's the one we got. He loves it. Again, I said in the morning, he loves it. He absolutely loves the car. And he's going to start driving it every single day. But yeah, he's really, he was like a kid in a candy store. Like, as soon as he got the car, he was so excited to just use it and to drive it. And we did FSD all on the weekend. And dude, every time the thing turned into a different lane or something, like, he was just like, wow, this is wild. And so, yeah, he'll be using FSD a lot. And it'll be dope. We did not eat the coconut or the lemons. I think you're supposed to eat the coconut. You're not supposed to eat the lemons. So the lemons are still there on the floor at the Tesla place. Does your dad use FSD? Yes, he will use FSD. Amit, why is coin worth more than Hood? Good question. I don't know. Because Coinbase is way more cyclical in the context of the crypto momentum than Hood. Now, Coin is doing a lot more revenue than Hood. I think like a couple billion more. But as a business, I think it's so cyclical tied to Bitcoin, whereas Robinhood is like building out real diversification that I like Robinhood more. But Coinbase, when it bottomed at $30 back in March 2023, it's done very well since then. So I think now Robinhood probably outperforms over the long term, but it has still outperformed Hood from those lows. What about the lime and the coconut? I never thought too much about the coconut and the lime, but then I posted on Twitter and everyone was asking about it. I was like, they were like, why do we have to do that? I was like, I don't even know, dude. I just know my dad will not drive this car unless we crack the coconut and run over the lemons. I don't really know why, though. I never asked him why. I know it has something to do with like good luck, I guess. I would imagine. But I don't really understand why. You left the lemons in the parking lot? Yes, we left the lemons in the parking lot. What acceleration mode does he use? I have no idea, dude. I have not gone that deep into it. I don't think there's a specific mode. Maybe there is, but I'm forgetting the name. But it's just the regular mode that's there. Might also sell SoFi, hoping for an earnings pump, and I'll most likely sell. See, I still am pretty damn bullish on this loan platform, and I do think it plays out. And I think everyone's getting a little bit too bearish on SoFi. So to me, I don't think this is the price to sell. I also think it does not deserve to be at $11.50. I think it deserves close to be 15. And I think the only reason it's down this low is because of Atlas, because we saw this thing reverse almost instantaneously a week and a half ago, almost back to 15. And then it came right back down as the algos took place. So nothing fundamental has changed at all in the SoFi story. It's just now Robinhood entered banking and people are afraid, right? Of what does it mean for SoFi's broader banking business, even though I don't think, at least yet, that's going to meaningfully take away market share. I don't even think people are that pissed off about Hood. I think they're more pissed off that SoFi hasn't had a massive event and, gotten people's attention like Hood has. That's what they're really mad about, more so than Hood entering the space. And so, maybe SoFi can fix that. They have a shot to, but as of now, I think that's the main concern around SoFi. Why is the stream blurry now? I don't know, bro. StreamYard, I think it's time to short StreamYard. Like legit. I don't know how we're gonna short it. I need a what is those things they used in the freaking in the Big Short? They used freaking CDOs or something? Or sorry, credit default swaps. I need I need a credit default swap on StreamYard, bro. Some market maker, make me a credit default swap on StreamYard. I am tired of this freaking website. But there's no website that's better. YouTube's live streaming sucks. OBS is way too complicated. Streamlabs sucks. Restream sucks. StreamYard's the only one left. Wow, gold just logged its best month since July 2020. Holy crap. Gold was up 8.6% in March. Well, look, either gold is turning out to be a really good short or it's telling us something that we need to be afraid about. And I think until April 2nd, we're not necessarily going to know the answer to that. I'm leaning more towards short, though, than it's going to be super scary or at least flat. Like, I don't think I would ever actually short it, but 8% in gold, best month in 5 years. Again, I think it's one or two scenarios. Either shit hits the fan or we chill, or like it's not that bad. And I'm kind of leaning toward it's not that bad. Is this the time to buy or sell gold? So one quote I heard always in the context of gold, I haven't researched gold a lot, but the sort of famous quote out there is that you never sell gold, ever. You always hold gold. Like gold is one of those true things. It's kind of, I mean, people have kind of adopted this with Bitcoin, right? Which is, it's like, you never sell, you hold it. And no matter what happens, you always have this as a hedge. From 2010 to 2020, gold significantly did not outperform the broader markets, tech stocks, etc. I mean, it doubled, which is fine, but like, you know, you had tech stocks like Meta, Alphabet. I mean, they went crazy. But over the past 5 years, and definitely over the past month, gold has done much better, and obviously outperforming the S&P 500. Julian Emmanuel is on CNBC. All right, let's take a listen to him, and then we'll end out for the day. He's actually one of my favorite analysts. So let's get his thoughts. I bet his opinion is going to be the same opinion he's had for the past couple of weeks now, which is that we are bottoming. That's what I'm guessing. This is one of my favorite analysts for a reason. I really like how he thinks about the market. I think he's going to say we are bottoming. Let's see what he says.
Conversation, Julian. But we're going to still be in a bull market. The trend is still going to be a bull market trend, whatever pullback we see.
That's our view. So a couple things to think about. We've all seen that chart of trade policy uncertainty, literally to highs that were unimaginable, certainly even when you think about the 2018-2019 trade war. But I would suggest that, and Tim hit this earlier, the mood this morning and over the weekend, talking with clients and talking with colleagues, was as negative as I can remember, going back to when Silicon Valley Bank blew up and we didn't know the Fed was going to, quote unquote, take care of business.
By the way, Gavin Baker said the same thing today. He put out a long tweet saying, hey, I talked to a lot of clients over the weekend. Everyone feels like shit's hitting the fan, which probably means maybe it's not going to hit the fan.
And so from that perspective, we don't think you need a material clarity. We just think that you need, and we're likely to see, just at the edges, the very, very extreme scenarios becoming less possible, i.e. we get some sort of view that there's going to be negotiation. And that to us, combined with, we don't see a recession here. Our view is for 1.7% growth this year. And the market can deal with inflation in the high twos. 3% is a break point. 3% to us, if it's going to be over that, the S word, stagflation, certainly becomes a possibility. But we would argue that the market's already pricing it.
So how important is this jobs number on Friday? Because that's the final piece, potentially, the stagflation equation.
It's really important, not just from what the number is, and in the parlance of Wall Street, what's interesting is the whisper number is 100, and the official number is 140, so there's wiggle room there. A 5-digit number is likely going to be problematic. It's also how the administration between now and Friday spins all of this. You know, if it is something where we are committed to, you know, reconstructing the U.S. economy, we understand there's pain, we know there's going to be more pain, that's not going to be the message that the market's going to want to hear, almost regardless of what the number is. But as I said, I think there's likely to be nuance in the message.
So where do you think the Fed comes out on, you know, the dual mandate? If we start to see unemployment really pick up and we start to see inflation, do they do nothing? What do they do?
So it's our view that Jay Powell is likely to be replaced next year. I think that's kind of obvious to most observers. And that when he thinks about his historical leg.
Wait. That interesting. So, okay. I didn't, that wasn't that obvious to me. His term does run up in 2026 though. He's right. So Trump's probably not going to renew him, which means, yeah, this is kind of his last, I forgot his term ends July 2026, if I'm not wrong, which means, this is his final last hurrah to make an impact on his legacy, unless Trump rehires him.
Legacy. He rescued us from the pandemic by doing a lot, and then he raised rates and didn't destroy the economy in the doing that. And you put it all together, his legacy is tied up in keeping the soft landing going and passing it on to whoever is the next person. So from that perspective, we really don't see a world where the Fed is going to hike. And if you think about how the market has responded the last couple of years, if they don't cut, it'll be a function of the fact that the economy is judged as being okay enough to do so.
Just quickly, you do recommend to clients to accumulate stocks right now. So which sectors have priced in peak uncertainty and which have not? I mean, we were talking about defensive sectors like a Walmart. That's not pricing in, well, I guess it is pricing in uncertainty in terms of multiple expansion, but how about the others?
So what's interesting about today is that everyone basically moved their sectors in the direction of how the entire quarter was going. So you saw, consumer staples outperform. You saw healthcare very strong. In our view, those are probably the places where defense has been hiding, where, again, all you need is a little less uncertainty. We think you go back to the prior bull market winners in general: technology, communication services, discretionary.
Julian, thank you. Good to see you.
Thank
Julian
you.
Emmanuel,
Peak uncertainty and you buy tech is the argument by Mr. Julian Emmanuel. I don't just like him because he's bullish. I like him because he has a sort of different argument than Tom Lee around a lot of this stuff, even though they overlap. But his core argument is also rooted in not only sentiment, but the broader fundamental thesis for owning a sector and then navigating how that sector reacts towards sentiment. And when these guys speak to a lot of their clients, and it's very similar to what Gavin Baker said today, all of these clients end up saying the same thing, which is, hey, buy gold. Hey, get out of Bitcoin. Hey, get me out of risk. Hey, put me into Verizon, sell my Nvidia. It does signal either all these clients are right, which, clients tend to be wrong most of the time, which is why they need advisors in the first place. And then from a contra signal perspective, do the advisors do what the clients say, or do they actually go the opposite route? And it's really interesting. If you called your financial advisor today, and if you called Julian Emmanuel and was like, hey, sell my Nvidia, this is stupid, Nvidia's tanking, like, get me into something safe. And then he bought Verizon for you. And then Nvidia outperforms Verizon, which I think is very possible to happen because Nvidia puts up really good numbers. You'd be pretty mad at that sell. It takes a certain type of advisor to be like, no. I know you want me to sell Nvidia right now. I'm not going to do that. I'm actually going to buy more of it because I think that everyone is telling me to sell this, which is leading me to a realization that the fundamentals are intact. The prior bull market is still intact. And if April 2nd is not as bad as we think it is, then Nvidia should be a better stock to buy than something like Verizon. So I think from that contrarian perspective, Tom Lee, Gavin Baker, all three of these guys made the argument today that most of the market wants to flip bearish versus being bullish. I didn't factor in the Jay Powell retiring 2026 point. I didn't know in 2026 he ends up leaving. May 12th, 2026, he's gone. Wow. That is just over a year away. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, like he only has about a year left to solidify his legacy. And if we have a recession in between now and 2026 because we didn't cut rates fast enough, even if the tariffs caused it or whatever, it's going to be applied to J-Powell. And he's not going to have the time to save it because yeah, Trump's probably not renewing him, especially if he cuts rates too slow this time. I actually forgot, dude. He has a 4-year term, and that 4-year term ends in 2026. I should apply for FOMC chair. Dude, if I was the Fed chair, those press conferences, let's just say you would want to watch. Let's just say my opening statement, it would be filled with some good. That would be my stand-up routine, bro. I'd be doing stand-up with the economy right there. The amount of one-liners, the amount of fucking puns, it would be exciting if I was the Fed chair. You would crash the market now, bro. I would take this market to the moon, bro. Is the Fed ready to cut rates? Dude, we've been ready to cut rates. We're just waiting on a little bit of data. We're gonna cut it. We're gonna cut it. Come on, Jessica. Like, you're a Yahoo Finance. Like, how many times have we told you? Of course we're gonna. We just give us a little bit of time. Give us a little bit of time. I'm not gonna say we're data dependent because we've already looked at the data. Now we just need a little bit of time to come to a conclusion, but we're gonna cut it. Yeah, I'd bring my bell. The day we announced the 25 basis point cut, I would be like, ladies and gentlemen, we have cut rates by 25 bips. And I just ring the crap out of the bell, dude. Like, this would be the most epic FOMC meetings ever. Literally the most epic ever. Yeah, if they ask me, are we planning on 2 cuts? I'd be like, look, I know the Fed presidents, we came to a decision around 2. I actually want 3. I would literally whisper it in. I'd be like, don't tell anybody, but I want 3. They wanted 2. We had to go with 2 just to like make everything seem like we're in unison. But yeah, I want some cuts. Oh, the meeting would definitely be longer than 40 minutes, dude. It'd be a freaking 3-hour live stream, bro. And I changed the background. I'd get some freaking bricks, bro. Their background's so ugly. It's just this random blue curtain. We're going to make it fun, bro. We're going to make it fun. Oh, I didn't tell you guys the best part of the Robinhood event. We'll end it on this. I didn't tell you guys the best part of the Robinhood event. Okay, so the best freaking part of this I forgot. I didn't tell you guys this at all last week. I forgot. So you guys know Stephanie Guild, right? Who is like the head of macro at Robinhood, and she puts out a lot of content and articles and all this stuff on Robinhood. She was also presenting at the show. So I saw her at the Robinhood event, and we talked. We're like, hey, how are you? Yada, yada. And within the first 2 minutes of us talking, she says, I have to go full screen for this. She says, oh my God, do you get a manicure? It was great, dude. It was great. I was like, yes, Stephanie. Yes, I do. And she was like, I love that. I was like, thank you. I really appreciate that you said thank you. And she was like, oh, I get those done with my son all the time. I was like, there you go, bro. There you go. Mother and son manicures. I mean, come on, bro. That's yeah, my shiny ass nails were showing off apparently. So it was great, dude. I walked into the event, and within 2 minutes I saw her and we started talking, and that was their first comment. I was like, this is gonna be a great event. This is gonna be great. This is awesome. So Matt says, I've gotten a mani-pedi with my mom. It was dope. All right, see, thank you. Another person who gets mani-pedis. Dude, I'm telling you, if you're a guy out there and you haven't done it, I think you should try it. I think you should legit try it. It's not too bad. But yeah, as soon as I felt so validated, bro. I felt so good. I was like, thank you. Thank you for acknowledging. Acknowledging my nails. By the way, why am I so sweaty today, dude? Like what's going on today? Is the weather getting out? Am I too excited? I haven't been sweaty in so long, but I guess I'm sweaty here today. Do you rub banana peels over your face? Not yet, but I definitely do want to try doing that. I mean, I gotta get some Saratoga water, dude. I gotta get some Saratoga water. She was definitely a good private banker. She was great. I think she was at Goldman Sachs for like 20 years. She was great. And so I'm so happy that she's part of Robinhood now. Someone said you're on your period. Oh my gosh. All right, I'm out. Someone said you're on your period, dude. Holy crap. Oh, as I'm about to leave, look who ends up calling. This freaking guy. Steve, I was about to end my market close, and then you called.
Well, I told you I'd call you back.
Yeah, I just didn't expect you would call me back literally when I had to end the market close.
I mean, you don't have to end anything.
No.
The market's already closed. You're not closing anything.
Steve, you think if I close the show right now, the amount of people that have been begging you all day, it's basically your show. Like, just like, Steve. When Steve comes, get Steve. Like, I can't end it now that you're here.
I was absolutely slammed all day.
Wow. Dude, I tell people you're working and you're in meetings. They don't believe me. They don't believe you actually have a job. Like, they're just like, no, why can't Steve? I'm like, because he has a freaking job. He's like busy. Like,
if they pay me to stay home, then I can do a show anytime.
We got to make that happen. Okay, so we haven't talked in the past couple of days. A lot has happened. I don't want to take too much of your time. Maybe like 20 minutes, and then we'll get you out of here. We'll talk more deeper.
Yeah, sure.
We'll talk more in depth tomorrow. Just overall markets today. Any reaction around?
I barely looked. I was slammed all day. If I had 20 minutes all day, that would be a lot. I legitimately had enough time to go get a sandwich from downstairs, and that was it.
Did you buy Nvidia at all?
I bought, I may have bought some Nvidia.
I knew you did. I knew you did.
Some more block this morning at like 10 a.m. or 9:30 in the morning. Right when
you got the bottom.
Opened.
You literally got the bottom today.
Yeah, I paid like 104 something for Nvidia.
Okay, I paid 105, so not bad.
And if it goes lower, I don't care. I'm buying more. I mean, look, scared money doesn't make money. I don't think that this is the end of earnings expansion or the end of Nvidia's reign. And I actually watched a video from another YouTuber who makes very in-depth and precise, you know who I'm talking about, Alex, stuff about tech. And his latest Nvidia video just validates everything that I'm thinking in a much more precise way. And look, if Nvidia keeps going down, I'm going to still buy it.
April 2nd's coming up in a couple of days. Are you scared at all, or you kind of just don't care?
No, I don't. What do I care? I'm not. I didn't sell anything last week. I didn't sell anything the week before. I'm not selling anything this week. And it doesn't matter for long-term investors. I really don't think this matters. If you are a swing trader or a day trader, it absolutely matters. It's all the lens you're looking at it through.
Yeah, I 1000% agree. I think if you're long this market, like,
look, this is why I always say to you and to other people that the best investment you can make is the one you don't have to think about. And the one that you don't have to think about is looking 20, 30 years out and just buying the S&P every 2 weeks. Because you know what? When the market's going down and correcting 10%, you're doing great and you're averaging down. And then when the market's going up, you're buying into an uptrend and you're still making money. So if you're a long-term investor, just keep buying the market and it's not going to matter.
Do you feel your gut feeling that the market is priced in all this tariff volatility, or you think Trump's going to introduce something so new that's going to cause another 5% down?
Yeah, unless he comes out with something that we haven't heard before, I think that everything is priced in. Oil is down. Crude prices are down. That's a big thing. I'm not worried about this stuff. I'm more worried about things that people think that I'm writing a sci-fi movie about. So,
What do you mean sci-fi movie? What do you mean?
No, look, the things that some people are worried about, I'm not worried about. What I'm worried about is how advanced AI is going to get and the amount of jobs are going to get displaced over the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah. Oh, so then
That's
you're going
what
to love this headline. ChatGPT today in 1 hour, Sam Altman tweeted, signed up 1 million users.
I'm not shocked.
I mean, what do we think that means for Nvidia, right? Like,
well, Grok was down 2 nights ago. Like down, like you could not, like unless you were just using the assistant, you could not use any of the other features on it. And it was due to, and it was all over X, and it was all over when you actually ask Grok like why it's down and why features aren't working, that they reached maximum capacity on a global level because of the amount of people using it. And then people started asking it how many more GPUs it needs. And it said that it wants double the GPUs for the workloads it's getting.
Wow. Yeah.
Because I was trying to use it to figure a few things out, and the features weren't working.
No, it's fair. And I mean, have you heard of this Ghibli trend on ChatGPT?
I have no idea. I don't use ChatGPT, so I have no idea.
Okay, so it's basically a photo filter that has gone crazy viral. I think that's why they're getting so many of these millions of users. And it's funny because it's like a photo trend on an AI app is making the app go viral. Imagine when there's like drug discovery and so much more you can do, right?
Well, I was having that conversation with my wife yesterday in the car about where I think this is going to go with Oracle and Cerner and the amount of AI research that's going to get done through the stuff Altman's going to build with ChatGPT. And I think the next 5 years of medical advancements is going to be like nothing we've seen. And I got to tell you, we need to find genome sequencing companies such as why do I always blank on the name of that damn company?
CRISPR.
Yeah. I think there's going to be a lot of breakthroughs. I really do.
Okay. So we got some of your macro thoughts. We got some of your Nvidia thoughts. Again, we'll get more of your thoughts later this week. But last thing I want to ask you, Steve, is well, what do you think's going on with SoFi right now?
I mean, Noto said he sees everything and he's watching everything. But you know what? I'd love to have a conversation with the guy because I'm not a happy shareholder.
It's so funny that you referenced that tweet because I referenced that tweet today as well. And I was like, if he sees everything and reads everything, maybe he should actually talk to Tanner for 30 minutes on camera. You know, maybe he should actually engage if he sees everything.
I mean, that wouldn't be the worst idea in the world. You know, look, I said it. I was probably the most bearish on SoFi Weekly out of the 4 of us.
I know. I listened to it. And you kept making a disclaimer saying, guys, I don't even like Robinhood. And so I think people could trust your analysis being bearish on SoFi because you're not a fan of Hood at all.
Well, and I think that's the biggest point, that I'm an original with SoFi. I've been in it day one. I've been very bullish on it. I have recently gone neutral in the past 6 months or so, maybe 4 months, around that area. I'd have to look. But I've continuously said that I dislike Robinhood. I'll never use the product for anything significant. And the only reason that I had an account is because I wanted to buy Cardano or something, and because they didn't charge me fees, I opened an account. But other than that, I haven't used it. I don't like the company. But just because I don't like the company doesn't mean it's not a good company. It's just not for me.
Right.
Same way JP Morgan Chase isn't for somebody else, or Merrill Lynch, Bank of America isn't for somebody else. So my problem with SoFi is, regardless if they have a wealth management division with Robo Trader and Robo Advisor, nobody knows about it. Their marketing and advertising departments need to be overhauled because there is no buzz around that. Yet Robinhood comes out with a full-blown plan and everybody's going crazy over it. And I'm just not happy because the tech platform is not doing what we thought it was going to do. And it's a simple messaging problem. You don't have to divulge anything from your NDAs. All you need to say is, we've been in X amount of RFPs over the past year. We're in the final stages of 4 of them. We feel pretty good about our chances. We are in the beginning stages of some of them across small to large financial institutions, and give some type of generic update instead of just dismissing it and not talking about it in the last quarter's call. Because The only thing that Robinhood cannot compete with at this point is lending and tech.
Yeah.
Everything else they're competing against.
Yeah.
And everything else, it looks like they're doing better. Now, the fact that they are going to be rolling out the deposits and everything else, it doesn't matter that they don't have a bank charter. They're going to be taking away from everybody. Now, data-driven, Chris, is 100% correct. It's not time to worry until we actually see member growth and deposit growth decline, which obviously hasn't happened yet. But that's not saying that it won't. And even if it doesn't, I don't like the fact that they allowed Robinhood to even come into this. They should have been a dominant player to the point where Vlad wouldn't even consider doing this because he wouldn't win. And the fact that they're doing this means that they think that they're going to win. And when you're giving a 2% match and 3% in some situations, and you're making people lock up their money for 5 years, that's not good, because guess what? Somebody comes in with $1 million using easy number, and they're going to get 3%. So you're going to pay somebody 30 grand to move their assets over on every million, but they have to lock their money up for 5 years. That means that they're never moving their money again for the next 5 years. So you just lost the customer probably for life.
Are you selling SoFi because of this, or you're cautiously waiting?
I'm getting closer and closer to selling every last share and putting it in Nvidia.
Is that not a bit emotional from you, or how are you rationalizing the sell?
No, it's not, because you know what? They're not delivering what I want them to deliver. I wanted business banking. I've been very vocal about it. We don't have it. Wealth management is not what I feel it should be. And the two should play off of each other. If they have their own proprietary mutual funds and ETFs, they should have a full-blown wealth management division, and they should have business banking, so they can also go and become the custodian of companies' 401k, 403b plans. That way, they can get the asset management fee from the actual mutual funds that they're putting them in on the SoFi platform. They get the actual management fee from the wealth management side, and that's just revenue that I've talked to somebody at the custodian for our company's plan one time in 12 years. One time in 12 years. It's free money.
Yeah.
Think about that. I pay an asset management fee every quarter, and I don't even talk to these people. So it is free money.
So let me ask you a deeper question. Why do you think Noto, like Vlad did a new podcast today, I found out 20 minutes ago, and he just did an event last week. Why do you think Noto is so hesitant to speak to the media? I mean, Trump is doing podcasts right now, and Noto's not.
I don't know. I mean, look, at the bottom line is Vlad and Robinhood are doing an excellent job showing everybody the roadmap, getting people excited, holding conferences every quarter. They're taking a page out of Carb's book, and it works. And for Noto just to give updates every quarter on the conference calls, that's not what his base wants. They want, I think, the same treatment that Vlad's giving and Carp is giving. And you know what? It works. It helps tell the story. And maybe it would actually make some of these analysts change the way they think about the company if they actually saw this type of engagement and what is on the roadmap. SoFi hasn't had an investor day since before they went public.
So someone says in the comment, you don't see any bank CEOs doing interviews like that.
Oh, that's not true. Jamie Dimon's doing
I was just going to say, Jamie Dimon is everywhere. Yep.
Now, it may be different because he's going to the economic forums and stuff like that, but he's doing a lot of interviews. He may not be doing it retail, but he's doing a lot of interviews.
So does David Solomon, Goldman Sachs guy. I mean, like, and also just JP Morgan and David Sachs or not David Sachs, Goldman Sachs are much bigger than SoFi. Like, SoFi is a very small company. They need to be using new media, even if they're a bank.
And it can only help them with customer retention, getting new customers, getting the street excited. But the tech platform, and I've been very firm on this for years, is the most important thing at this point, because nobody owns the back end. Yes, there are other companies that do what Galileo does and other companies that do what Technesis does. But there's no company, until somebody can show me a company that has both of those aspects in one. I don't know of a single one that owns the back end the way SoFi does.
Yeah.
And for them to be looked at as not just the bank, because right now, when Tanner and him and I had this conversation, this is nothing new. he loves the lending platform. And so do I. I'm actually an investor in OBDC.
I thought your
is-
take on Hood Weekly was the best take I've heard on the lending platform. Go ahead.
What, on SoFi Weekly?
Yeah, well, yeah. Just I heard your take, and I thought it was the best take.
It's freaking boring.
Yep.
Like, I'm invested in a lot of different BDCs, business development corporations. Blue Owl, who is the company that used to be Owl Rock Capital, is the company that they just signed that $5 billion deal with. And they have a BDC, Blue Owl Capital, which I'm invested in. You can just go invest in a BDC and get paid 8 to 13%, depending on which one you are, on the dividend. And what those companies do is they take an equity stake or they issue senior secured debt to companies, and they basically have a huge loan book of debt that they're generating interest on. Like, it's no different. And people are getting excited about SoFi's loan book, but that's just showing that they're going down the path of just being a traditional bank. If you want to invest in a loan book, there's other ways to do that. And I understand the premise, I understand what they're doing, but I'm not getting excited about them just being a lender like every other bank. I want progress on the tech side. And I understand it takes time, but for them to get a tech multiple, they have to be looked at as a tech company. And the only way they're going to be looked at as a tech company is if they win some of these RFPs and they're not only powering themselves, but they're generating revenue from their competitors, powering their entire suite of services. And until that happens, they're not going to be looked at as a tech company, especially not when everybody's making such a big deal about lending.
Yeah, and look, I think the loan platform is bullish, but I just so agree with your take. It's like, that can't be the thing that people get excited about.
And look, it's going to generate profit, and I'm excited about it, but it's not what it's going to take to be looked at as a tech or a hybrid tech company. They are going down the path of legacy banking at that point without a physical footprint. And that's fine. I'm sure that they're going to make money. I would like to think that Noto's going to hit his targets for EPS. And by that metric, on a forward basis, it looks undervalued for the amount of growth it has.
Yeah.
But when you think about what Robinhood just did, people getting excited about it, now, it's not showing up in the markets because Robinhood keeps going down, but there's a lot bigger buzz about Robinhood than there is SoFi. And to me, that's a problem. Like, SoFi should have never let Robinhood get to this point.
Especially because SoFi is growing. It's not like they're not putting up the growth. I just think their communication and media strategy is like non-existent right now. And it's real, dude. Like, we had a 45-minute meet and greet with Vlad after the event. Like, he literally spent 45 minutes of his time sitting and talking to us. It was only supposed to be like 10 or 15 minutes, but he wanted to stay to talk to us. And like, when you get that out of a CEO, you really start getting people that believe in him because he cares about the users first and foremost, where I don't think Noto gives a shit about what his users say because he's not a tech guy. He's a banking guy.
And think about what you always say about Palantir. And you always say, well, none of the long-term shareholders are selling because they all believe in Carp's vision. Carp takes the time to explain everything. He talks with you. He talks with Arnie. He talks at all these events.
And he wants to. That's the other thing. It's not like he's doing it because he needs to. He actually wants to take the time to do it, which is.
And I think that this is what Noto's got to do. If Noto wants this to work the way that everybody wants it to work, he's got to start doing 1 or 2 conferences a year. I could care less about going to it. I wouldn't go unless it's in New York and I was invited, but I'm not traveling for it. I mean, he's got to do it. Otherwise, Robinhood's going to continue to come out with all these different things. I mean, think about the launch of the SoFi credit card versus the Robinhood Gold. Two completely different stances.
Yeah. Completely different.
I don't know.
I think you have a valid critique. I think you and the Tanner, Roy, Tevis were unfairly facing criticism after that episode. A lot of people called it Robinhood Weekly and all this stuff. And I was just like, how do you not respond to a competitive threat in the market space?
Well, and that's the biggest thing. People can say whatever they want about what I said on that podcast or what I'm saying now. But if you're not willing to look at your investments and look at the competitive landscape and see who can take away part of your moat, you got a problem. You probably shouldn't be investing then in individual companies. Invest in the S&P because at that point it doesn't matter. But if you're investing in Coca-Cola, you better be looking at what Pepsi's doing.
Yeah.
It's just, why wouldn't you look at the competitors?
We've been historically very critical of Palantir when they couldn't scale, when they couldn't get a sales distribution model. Like we spent a lot. We evaluate data breaks and all these other competitors. We've done that and we're still going to keep doing that. But that's what kept us honest about the investment back in 2023.
And everybody thinks, or some of us think, that Palantir's valuation is overextended, no matter how good of a company we know it is.
And we've been able to have those public debates, you know.
Of course.
And no one got mad at you for the comments on our Palantir Weekly where people were happy we had a debate about this stuff. So that tells me a lot about the SoFi. Whoever watches that podcast, they really didn't appreciate evaluating a competitive threat from a worthwhile competitor, and that to me is weird. Because
it's weird, and I go a step further. That's crazy because you want to know what you're up against. And Robinhood, SoFi's been taken from legacy banking, but Robinhood coming out with checking and all this other stuff, there is a halfway decent chance it's going to take customers away from SoFi. Now, I could not have been more clear. That does not mean that SoFi will not grow. Robinhood can still take customers away from SoFi while SoFi is adding members. They just may not add as many members to offset that, where the growth numbers stay the same. That's the difference.
Yeah.
And, people should be aware of that. If you're investing, should be aware that there's a new player in town that has a household name that maybe somebody's using for their brokerage, they're using SoFi for their banking, and they like Robinhood more. Now that they're going to offer checking, maybe they're going to send their checking back. That's not good.
No, I agree. Having said that, I do think people are getting a little bit too bearish on SoFi, and I'm seeing way too many people saying SoFi's dead, which is not. But
it's not dead. It's just we need to see how they respond. And I have not sold yet, but I'm getting more annoyed because nobody's responding from the SoFi end.
Yeah.
Noto can sit there and look. I was one of the biggest Noto bulls, right? The bottom line is, I was one of the only people who was saying I'm in this because of him, because of look what they did with one hand tied behind their back. This guy's an operator, and you really look at the master classes he's given in leadership. This is somebody that you want as a CEO. But I'm starting to get annoyed with these cryptic messages on X. Come out and do a full-blown investor day.
Dude, so it was so funny.
Show the road back.
I told people on Friday, Steve's the guy who got me into SoFi because you sent me Anthony Noto's Stanford keynote.
It's one of the most amazing things I've ever heard from a CEO.
But then Tanner showed me your text about Noto. And I was like, well, yeah, Steve's a little annoyed right now.
Yeah, I'm more than a little annoyed because I believe in the company. And I believe that it has all the tools to become a top 10 financial institution. But if you're not going to deploy, let me back up. They have the entire back end. You cannot tell me that it would not be simple for them to implement business banking. And I'm not going to get off of that because it is critical. It is absolutely critical.
Dude, I'm not going to be able to go to Robinhood because I have a business bank account in Bank of America. So, if Robinhood beats SoFi to business banking after they launch,
I will be so angry if that happens.
And I actually switched from Bank of America to Robinhood's business banking because I would have been switched to SoFi a year ago if they had done that. I would switch today if they did that. But
especially with their freaking interest rate.
100%, 100%, yeah.
Yes. I don't think people realize business banking does not mean that they're going to get a Raytheon or somebody or an Amazon as a client. But there are millions of small businesses. You got to look at this from a holistic approach. The business banking is so powerful because it's not just the banking side. It's being able to lend to those businesses and generate interest and fuel the loan book and be able to sell that off at a little bit of a profit, but it increases the volume. And then building the wealth management side from the banking, from the business clients with the 401ks and 403bs. Because at the end of the day, that's where a lot of people's wealth forms, is in their retirement accounts.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you want the management fees on that? And it is insane to me that I'm still having this conversation with myself, you, and other people and saying it publicly on Seeking Alpha and on X, and yet there's nothing. Like, oh, we hear you. We see everything. Okay, well, nobody's responded to me.
Yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong at all. All right, cool. Wanted to get your thoughts. We'll get you on the show later this week as well to go more in depth around the markets. But I'm in agreement with you about tariffs. I think April 2nd is going to be a buy the news. I think today is a buy the news, and April 2nd is going to be a like nothing burger. Hopefully not a massive sell the news. And I think we move forward unless Trump really introduces something crazy that no one's thought about when it comes to tariffs.
I mean, he may. There's a lot of things to look at. And look, tariffs may not even matter. And I don't have the energy to really go through it. We can go through it later in the week. But if you really think about how it's going to work, in the new tax cuts, if this guy actually puts through no taxes on anybody making $150 or less, or if that gets extended into just $150,000 tax credit, you're still going to get significant growth in the economy, even if you have tariffs that potentially push the prices up a little bit.
Yeah, no, I agree. And again,
So
I think there's going to be a lot of deals.
I think that they're playing 4D chess at the moment. I think a lot of things are being overlooked, and we got to see how certain things play out. But I think there's a reason that they leaked what they are planning on the tax code with the $150,000 number, because that will counteract or counterbalance the tariffs if they're implemented, and probably put us in a surplus and create growth. I mean, look, the Atlanta Fed just went back to 2.8%. I mean, first they were 2.6, then they were 1.8, now they're at 2.8%. So, I mean, who knows what's going to happen in Q1, but I do not think Q2 is going to be similar to Q1 by any means. Because I don't think Trump wants a recession his first half year in office.
If he does, the midterms are, I mean, they're gone. They lose the House for sure. It's over.
Yeah, I mean, yes.
If they cause a recession after 4 years of no Biden recession, no matter what the reason is,
Well, that's
2022 was not a recession. It wasn't a recession.
Yeah, it absolutely was.
From a technical perspective, yes, but did people really feel that as a recession?
But did people really feel it now? I don't know, but you know what? 2 quarters of negative growth.
No,
Negative growth.
No. If Trump causes 2 quarters of negative growth, but no one really feels it, no issue. But if we have growth slow down and inflation go up and we have stagflation, people are going to feel that. Like,
look, it was still a recession. Okay, even though they tried playing off that it wasn't, it was still a recession. And if the same thing happens now, but people don't feel it, I'll still say it's a recession because you have negative growth for 2 quarters, because that is the standard.
Yeah, but again, there's got to be an impact for people to actually vote the opposite way. You know?
That statement I agree with.
And look, investors felt pain in 2022 as well. We'll probably feel pain now, but like we were adding 500,000 jobs a month in 2022. You know,
it doesn't look good. And look, he's not even in office 3 months, so gotta let things shake out. But I do think that this week is going to be a nothing burger. But I could be wrong. He could come out tomorrow for April Fools and come out with something crazy.
Okay, last question for you, because I just found this out. Apparently, J-Pow's term ends in 2026. In May. Because I wouldn't mind having Stephen Fiorillo as the the Fed chair.
I don't think a lot of people would, because all I would care about is maximum employment.
That is true. That is true. Why is the mic not working? Why is it? Hold on.
I mean, at this point, maximum employment is way more important than.
We're good. We're good on the mic, guys. We're good. Thumbs up. Yes. We're about to switch to Trump in a second. He's live again. It's back. Okay, cool.
God.
Wait, you can stay on the phone and listen if you want to, because if not,
how long is it going to be?
I don't know, dude. It might be like an hour. Who knows?
Oh, jeez.
I'll give you the highlights. I'll call you later. I'll give you the highlights.
All right. I'll talk to you later.
All right. Talk later. If you missed Steve's response to the FOMC question, he said, I would love to do it, but nobody would vote for me. That's what he said. All right. We were supposed to leave like 20 minutes ago, but we stayed on because of Steve, and now we've got Trump. Here we go.
there's a lot of other artists too. The artists, and they go out with $100 ticket and it sells for $2,000 the following night. And they seem to be able to sweep up the best locations too, which is pretty amazing. So
they've only enforced that box act one time, I believe. A couple of years ago in New York City, we got a $2 million fine. And that's the only time they've enforced that act.
And who's the primary culprit? Who sells these tickets?
It's the scalpers. It's these bots go in, they're automated. So you're in
locations too, which is pretty amazing. So
they've only enforced that box act one time, I believe. A couple of years ago in New York City, we got a $2 million fine. And that's the only time they've enforced that act.
And who's the primary culprit? Who sells these tickets?
This is Kid Rock, for those that know who he is. He's with Trump at the Oval Office.
It's the scalpers. It's these bots go in and they're automated. There's reselling markets all. Yeah.
I think I know, Peter. But that's all right. Don't get them involved. Maybe they're more innocent than we think. Yeah?
Well, if you think of it, like if Ticketmaster sells a ticket, if you buy a ticket and go to a show, you're in a lot of ways their worst customer. They make another 17, whatever percentage every time that ticket resells. So they don't want to enforce the Bots Act necessarily because they're making more money off it. The artists don't see any of that money, but that's not what I'm advocating for, is for me to make more money. I want the fans to have fair ticket prices, be able to go and enjoy more shows. I know people that they decide on a family vacation or going to their favorite concert once a year rather than, my parents used to go see multiple shows when you could afford them back in their day. And I'd like to take my ticket prices lower, but if I set my ticket prices low, these bots immediately eat them up. And they resell for hundreds of dollars more, and I'm just making these bad actors rich.
Yeah. Well, I think this is a big step to getting it stopped. Do you have something, Brian?
Yeah, I do actually. I actually feel that the consumer is going to take the money that they've saved and actually buy merch, which you guys have a big percentage of, or do concessions, which you guys split with the venue on that as well. So I think their money.
We don't share in concessions a lot. No, those are. We try to, but they don't want to share it in the beer prices and parking or any of that stuff. But the bottom line is there's money for everyone to be made. There's plenty of money to go around. No one's going to really lose here. Ticketmaster, if we can get a cap, they're going to lose some money. But I've already talked to the CEO, Michael, and he's given me his word. He's on board for it.
I was talking to Jacoby with Papa Roach earlier, and by the way, he's a big fan of what you're doing, President Trump, digging into this whole scalping and the bots. A lot of musicians, you can say that they're with Kid Rock, sir. On this, I think so. Without a doubt.
A lot of people are.
President Trump, would you ever wear a jacket like that?
I don't know. I was thinking about doing it for tomorrow. We have a big event coming up, and I was thinking about doing it, but I'm not sure.
So you recently bought a Tesla for White House staff to use, but now there's all these domestic terrorists targeting Teslas. Are the staff scared to drive it?
I don't think so. I haven't heard. They weren't complaining. I did buy one, and I let the staff use it. We have it parked conveniently, and one day we give it to Margot, one day we give it to Chamberlain, give it to Natalie, we give it to everybody around, and give it to Dan Scavino, but he's got so much money it doesn't matter. But they love the car, and it's a great car, and it's made here. It's made in the country. He's got a tremendous plant now in Texas, and he has one in California. Does a lot of his work here, and he's been really unfairly treated, in my opinion.
I drive one.
And
yeah,
there's this other story. I know it's hypothetical right now, but if you were allowed for some reason to run for a third term, is there a thought that the Democrats could try to run Barack Obama against you?
I'd love that.
For his third term.
Boy, I'd love that. That would be a good one. I'd like that. No, people are asking me to run, and there's a whole story about running for a third term. I don't know. I never looked into it. They do say there's a way you can do it, but I don't know about that. But I have not looked into it. I want to do a fantastic job. We have 4 years, just about, almost close to 4 years. Time is flying, but it's still close to 4 years. And we're getting a lot of credit for having done a great job in the first almost 100 days. And we have some big things we're going to be announcing over the next 2 days that you know very well, Peter. And I think it's going to be something that's going to bring a lot of wealth back to our country, tremendous wealth back to our country, actually. And other countries are understanding it because they've been ripping us for 50 years longer, but they've been ripping us off for years, right from the beginning. And I think this is going to be an amazing, I call it a lot of different names, but it's really, in a sense, it's a rebirth of a country because how we could have afforded to do what we did, we helped everybody. And they don't help us. I really, the term I like best probably is the liberation of America. It's a liberation of this country because it's incredible. Look, we have 36 trillion in debt for a reason, and that accumulates over a long period of time. So I think what you're going to be seeing over the next couple of days will be very inspiring to a lot of people. You know, they had a lot of auto plants being built in a certain country. I don't want to mention the country because we get along great with the country, but those plants aren't being built there anymore. They gave them up today and yesterday, day before, and they're building them all now in the United States. And we have many examples, not only auto plants, chip companies from Taiwan are coming in. The biggest, Mr. Wei, he's big. I said, you are a smart guy, aren't you? I've been reading about him over the years, but he controls a large portion of the chip business, as you know. You don't get smarter. They're going to be investing $200 or $300 billion. Apple's investing $500 billion. You know, they always built their places in China. Now he's building here. I think because of you speak to Tim Cook, because of the election, but maybe more importantly because of the tariffs. You know, he's got really an obligation to do it. But we have many, many companies that you haven't even heard of. But I think we'll be at $5 trillion very soon. And if you think about this, we've never been anywhere near that. I don't know if we've ever been at $1 trillion. What
do you mean by that?
We're 500. What do I mean by trillion?
5 trillion. What are you referring to, sir?
I think that we're going to be at $5 trillion of investment. I think you're going to have investments very shortly. We're already 3.5, and we have commitments, verbal commitments for a lot more. And numbers like that have never been done in this country. And it's going to get harder. This is in 2 months. It's really in less than 2 months because since we've really gone out with it. And we have other interesting things happening. But to me, the whole tariff situation, and essentially they've done that to us for many years. So if we're anywhere near 5 trillion in 2 months, this could be numbers like the country's never seen. And every time you hear a dollar spent, that's another job because the jobs are coming with it. So auto plants, chip plants, pharmaceuticals, lumber coming in. We have things happening in this country. I'm not sure that they've ever seen it. Steel, you know, we have tariffs on steel. They've been here for a while. Steel and aluminum. Nobody's ever seen anything like we're witnessing now. Nobody's ever seen anything. Most of you agree with that. I mean, it's nothing much you can't agree with. We have things happening in terms of jobs and investment, the likes of which I don't think we've ever seen. If you look at, let's say, $4 to $5 trillion in a period of a month and a half, that's even more than you do with your concerts, which are always sold out, right? Nobody's ever seen numbers. And think of it, where Apple's at 500 billion, as I said, but they always used to spend that money in China. Now they're spending it here. That means you're going to build. Now, they don't have any tariffs. Remember, there are no tariffs if you do your product here, if you build whatever it is in the USA. One of the things we're also trying to get is if you buy a car that was built in the USA, you get a deduction on interest. So if you go out and borrow money to buy a car, if it's built in the USA, never been done before, it's a big deduction for people that really aren't used to deductions, frankly, because people that buy cars like that are not big into the world of deductions. And now they're going to learn about deductions. So I think it's going to be great. Yeah.
President, are you going to move ahead with a universal tariff or different individual tariff rates on a whole variety of different?
Well, you're going to see it.
All right, tariff question. Here we go.
2 days, which is maybe tomorrow night or probably Wednesday, you're going to see. And they're reciprocal. So whatever they charge us, we charge them, but we're being nicer than they were. We have a lot of countries, friend and foe. I always say friend and foe, but the friend in many cases is worse than the foe. They took advantage of us. And we are going to be very nice by comparison to what they were. The numbers will be lower than what they've been charging us. And in some cases, maybe substantially lower, but we sort of have a world obligation, perhaps. But we're going to be very nice. Relatively speaking, we're going to be very kind.
Mr. President, you met with the chairman.
Somebody said that about me the other day. They said, who doesn't know me very well, they said, you're such a kind person. And I said, say that again. They said, you're a kind person. I said, I've never heard that before. It was a weird statement. I was kind.
Who said that?
I've heard of words that, I don't know, I better not tell you. You know, I've been called a lot of things, but it's sort of a different kind of a word. It's like an old-fashioned word, isn't it?
Mr. President, you met with the chairman of Stellantis today. Did
Yes.
he ask you for a pause on the auto tariffs?
No.
What was that meeting about?
Just about some of the problems they have with the environmental, which we're going to clean up.
Have any of the automakers?
We're going to probably go back to 1920. If you look, we're going to go back probably to a 2020 standard. So we'll have 2020 standard, and that's just a few years ago. Oh, they're making it so difficult all over the world. It doesn't mean a damn bit of difference even for the environment. It doesn't matter. They make it impossible for people to build cars. So we're going to be doing much different. 2020 is a strong standard. But they've taken it to a level now that makes it very difficult to build a car. So we're going to be bringing it back to a standard that is a very good environmental standard, but it makes it possible to build a car.
Have you heard any concerns from the automakers, though, about the tariffs on parts that will go into effect over the coming weeks, about what that's going to mean for the price of?
Well, I gave them a big break for a month. I didn't charge them anything, for a big month, for that first month. And they brought a lot of material into this country because they could bring it in without tariff. If you look at Canada and Mexico, they were driving hundreds of thousands of cars into the market because they avoid the tariffs by doing it before the tariffs go on, which would be Wednesday. And I saw some of your shows where cars are lined up for miles and miles. Some of them didn't have fenders on them. Some of them didn't have the roof on yet. They're driving it here brand new. They're driving it in because they want to avoid the tariffs. I let them have that. They sort of took advantage of it because, that wasn't part of the deal, but that's okay. They're great American car companies. And so I gave them a little break on that. Yeah.
Are there any countries that you're not targeting on Wednesday?
Well, it depends. I said it's reciprocal. Not everybody has made a fortune, but almost everybody has, but not everybody. And the ones that haven't, we're going to be very nice to them.
And on a separate issue,
because that word reciprocal is very important. What they do to us, we do to them. Okay.
Can I just ask you briefly on President Putin? You said over the weekend, or indicated over the weekend, some frustration with him. How serious are you about imposing oil sanctions on
No, I
Russian
want to
oil?
see him make a deal so that we stop Russian soldiers and Ukrainian soldiers and other people from being killed. But mostly it's Russian and Ukrainian soldiers. They're losing at least 2,500 human beings, beautiful human beings, a week. And I wanted to stop. And some people would say, why do you worry about Russian soldiers or Ukrainian soldiers? I worry because they're just like you people. They're like us. They're like all of us. And I seem to have an ability to do those things. And if I can do that, I think it's a very worthwhile thing to do. And I think we will. And no, I want to make sure that he follows through. And I think he will. I don't want to go secondary tariffs on his oil, but I think, it's something I would do if I thought he wasn't doing the job. I did it with Venezuela, secondary tariffs. And you know what happened? Every boat left the harbor. Did you see that? It was a beautiful thing to see. The whole harbor emptied out. My words weren't even finished. I have these massive ships. They're actually taking the hoses and dumping them into there. They couldn't get out of there fast enough because they know I don't play games. So I think he's going to live up to what he told me. And I think he's going to fulfill his part of the deal. Now, then you have Zelensky, and hopefully he's going to live up. I see he's trying to renegotiate the rare earth. We did something because, as you know, the Europeans get paid back the money that they gave, and we don't, because Biden is an incompetent president. And he should have asked for rare earth, or he should have asked for the loans to be guaranteed in some form. That's what Europe did. Europe is in for probably $100 billion. And we're in for 350 billion. So we're in for more than 3 times. And now you could make it a little bit less than that, but it doesn't matter, whatever the number. We're in for substantially more than Europe. We could be in for 350 billion. They have no idea because Biden wasn't a good bookkeeper except for himself. And what happens is we made a deal for rare earth. It was all done. And I heard through you, I haven't spoken to them yet, but through you, I heard that they're now saying, well, I'll only do that deal if we get into NATO or something to that effect. Well, that was never number one discussed. Number two, I think it's going to be very long before Putin. They said you're not going into NATO, and it could be that's probably the reason the war started. Actually,
Yeah, we're hours away from a very special election. Wisconsin, Florida. I want to share your thoughts on Republican voters to not sleep on this. These are two very important races you got.
Well, it's a big race, Supreme Court race in Wisconsin. It's taking place essentially as you know, it was early voting, and so we'll see what happens. It's a big race. I love Wisconsin. We won Wisconsin. Republicans typically don't do very well in Wisconsin, but I did. I actually won it twice. I actually probably won it 3 times to be exact.
We played their side.
Not probably. I won it 3 times. We had a rigged election the second time, but that's, you know, one of those things. We had to make this one too big to rig. Would you agree with that, Brian?
Yes,
too big
sir.
to rig?
Yes, sir.
So anyway, but yeah, there's a big race, and I hope you get out and vote for the Republican. The woman is a radical left lunatic, and let's see who wins. But the woman will be very bad, and you know, Wisconsin's a big state politically, and the Supreme Court has a lot to do with elections in Wisconsin. So if whoever it is that's running, including, you know, even Senate races, et cetera, but whoever it is in 4 years that runs, having Wisconsin is a very big, you know, we won it early and big, but winning Wisconsin's a big deal. So therefore, the Supreme Court choice, that is the one you're talking about right now. It's a big race. It's going to be announced fairly shortly.
President Trump, on TikTok, big week deadlines. You got Liberation Day and the TikTok deadline.
Yeah,
this
we
week.
do, which I can extend if I want, but we have a lot of enthusiasm for TikTok, for buying it. I think TikTok is good. I used it I was a great TikTok guy, and we won by 36 points, the youth. You know, we won the youth, which Republicans don't do. Maybe it's because Kid Rock likes Trump. I don't know, but we won the youth by 36 points, and I attribute some of that to TikTok.
Is the TikTok deal, the negotiations now, tied to a bigger tariff deal with China?
No, but you know, it could be. I mean, you know, I've used tariffs for lots of different reasons, but I could see, you know, 1 point in tariffs with China, big country, would be probably worth more than all of TikTok, as valuable as TikTok is. It's big stuff. So there's a great example. That's a great question, actually. I'm a very flexible person. I could use that for that. Like, maybe I'll take a couple of points off if I get approvals for something. I haven't done it. Maybe I'll do it, maybe I won't. But it's a very good question. Peter, you're very good.
Thank you. You'll love this one.
Go ahead.
It's not front page news, but I am just curious. What is your thought about Tiger Woods now becoming part of the broader Trump family?
Well, I love Tiger, and I love Vanessa, and they had a great relationship. I happen to think the relationship with my son, I happen to think the relationship was hurt very badly by the witch hunt that went on, Russia, and all the crap that they put Don through, who knew nothing about it. But Vanessa and Don had a very good relationship. They have incredible children, 5 incredible children, all good athletes, all great students. They're like great. And they broke up, you know, quite a while ago, and which was to me very sad because I think they're both great, Don and Vanessa. And Tiger actually called me a few months ago, and you know, I have a very special, very good relationship with Tiger. I played golf with him a couple of times over the last month, and he's a fantastic guy and a fantastic athlete. And he told me about it, and I said, Tiger, that's good. That's good. I'm very happy for both. I just let them both be happy. Let them both be happy. They're both great.
To follow up on China, China, South Korea, and Japan say they're going to work together in cooperation to respond to the tariffs that you're going to put into effect this week. Are you concerned that this move of the tariffs this week could push some of the United States' closest allies to work with China?
No, I'm not worried about it. I'm not worried about it. Yeah.
Mr. President, can I ask you
I
about
think they have a
something?
chance of doing better, actually, with the tariffs. It can actually help them in a certain way. And I think a lot of them will drop their tariffs because, you know, they've been unfairly tariffing the United States for years. And if you look at the European Union on cars, the European Union already dropped their tariff down to 2.5%. It was announced a couple of days ago, which is what which is a very small tariff. The United States charged very little. And a lot of, I think I heard that India just a little while ago is going to be dropping its tariffs very substantially. And I said, why didn't somebody do this a long time ago? A lot of countries are going to be dropping their tariffs.
That's what happened in France today, Mr. President. Marine Le Pen, the far-right leader, got convicted in court and is now banned from running for office for 5 years. Do you have a comment?
That's a big deal. That's a very big deal. I know all about it, and a lot of people thought she wasn't going to be convicted of anything, and I don't know if it means conviction, but she was banned for running for 5 years, and she's the leading candidate. That sounds like this country. That sounds very much like this country. Okay, anybody else?
You've been presented with a bunch of proposals for tariffs by your advisors. They've been talking about that idea publicly.
And who?
That your advisors have presented ideas
They
to you
do.
about tariffs and what to do in the next few days. Have you settled?
Well, you're going to see. I've settled, actually a long time ago. But we talk about it. We talk about it a lot. And we want to do what's right for the country and even the world. You know, it affects the world, not just this country. This has been the piggy bank for the entire world. So it really does affect the world, and that's important to me also. Yeah.
Yes, Mr. President, in the past you have said that you want the quick return of Austin Tice, a Marine Corps veteran and a journalist who went missing in Syria over 12 years ago.
Yeah.
Have efforts been made to locate Austin Tice been extended beyond Syria, including potential leads in Iran? And do you have plans to get in touch with Miss Deborah Tice, the mother of Miss Austin Tice? And also at the same time, organizations like Hostage Aid Worldwide have been on the ground in Syria, searching for Austin Tice for many years. Can I get your comment on the future, potential future plans to locate Austin Tice and to bring him home finally?
So we've been looking, as you know, for Austin for years. I don't know about Biden. I don't think Biden was looking for anything, but we were. And there's been virtually no sign, you know that. There's been no sign of Austin. An incredible young guy. Be less young now. I mean, it's been a long time. It's been many, many years. The mother is fantastic. She's a very committed mother that her whole life is to find her son, who was in Syria and just disappeared off the face of the earth. So, you know, a lot of bad things happen, but we're always, you know, we will never, until we find out something definitive, one way or the other, we'll never stop looking for him. But we have been, and the response, it's just a lot of dead ends. He's been gone for a long time. The problem is there's never been a sighting. You know, sometimes you'll have somebody you're looking for him and there's a sighting. There's never been a sighting of Austin, but we are out there and we have great respect for his family and for his mother. She's been unbelievable. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, a question about...
no, behind you.
Yes, you've had outreach with the leaders of Russia and China. You've made an outreach to Iran. When are you going to plan to reach out to North Korea and Kim Jong-un? Anytime in the near future?
Well, I do. I have a very good relationship with Kim Jong-un. Now, you people hate to hear that, but it's very important. I got along with him fantastically, as you know. It started off very rough, very nasty. Little rocket man, the whole thing was a nasty deal. And then one day we got a call that they'd like to meet. We met. We have a great relationship. And yeah, we have, there is communication, yeah. I think it's very important. You know, he's a big nuclear nation and he's a very smart guy. I got to know him very well. Remember, I put my foot across the line and then I walked across the line. I don't know if Secret Service was thrilled with that. They actually wasn't. They were not too thrilled. But I have a very good relationship with him. Yeah, we'll probably do something at some point. Yeah, please, Jeff.
Who's on your short list, Mr. President, to replace Elise Stefanik as U.S. Ambassador to the UN?
So we have a lot of good people that want it. First of all, Elise is fantastic, and I just don't want to take chances where you guys saying, how is the election going? We have a congressional election that's a little bit close. I guess the one is in good shape, but the other one's a little bit close. But Randy Fine is a great guy. They're both good candidates. They're very good. But it's, you know, a little bit, we want to be careful. And Elise is very popular in her district, and so am I. We won by a lot of points, and so did she. And there's a lot of people that wanted to run for it, but we have no idea are they going to win. I think it's just security. And I said, Elise, what about going back? Because they love you there, and she's going to take a big leadership position with Mike Johnson and the group, the speaker. And I can tell you that for the replacement, we have a lot of people that have asked about it and would like to do it. David Friedman, Rick Grinnell, and maybe 30 other people. Everyone loves that position. That's a star-making position. And so we'll see what happens. But we have a lot of people that are interested in going to the United Nations, as you can imagine. Yeah.
Sweet. Get a quick music question. Favorite song to play live is what? And then my question for you, Mr. President, your favorite rally you did last year, 2024. What was your favorite one?
Favorite song to play live?
Yeah, favorite song to play live.
Oh, that's a tough one. It'd have to be one of the hits, probably Cowboy Ball with the Bar. There's a song that I've played every night that was never a singular hit that I probably should not say the words to in this office right now.
And then for you, Mr.
You never met a certain
by the
person
way,
like
his
me.
rallies are amazing. He does great and gets big crowds. He's really a star when it comes to that. He is a very talented guy. I would say maybe Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
Because anybody that was there, the owner of the garden, Jim Dolan, who's, to me, always been terrific. He said he's never seen anything like it. We had, when you announced Madison Square Garden, it's a big arena, but we sell out big arenas. We sold out in Milwaukee. We sold out in every big arena. We never had empty seats. It's amazing. They talk about Bernie Sanders gets 2,000 or 3,000 people. Everyone said, these crowds, I get 107,000 people in New Jersey. In Butler, PA, we had over 100,000 the second time. We had 55,000 the first time. We have big crowds. I would say Madison Square Garden because I grew up in New York and the garden is great. Jim Dolan treated us well, but everybody said because I think I could have filled it up 10 times. We had hundreds of thousands of people that were stacked all the way back to the Hudson River and on the other direction, back to Fifth Avenue. Nobody's ever said, I don't mean with a line, I mean like 50 deep. Like 50 deep this way. The streets were closed, the whole thing, it was crazy. And when you take that, you want to do well at Madison Square Garden. You don't want to have empty seats. But we could have sold it out, Brian, 10 times, and everybody knew it. And I think we got a good indication that that's where the election was going. And we won every swing state, and we won by millions of votes. It was a great election, yeah.
Mr. President, the U.S. military transferred 17 individuals to El Salvador overnight. Did you discuss with your team whether these deportations would run afoul of any recent court orders?
No, I do want to thank, however, the president. He has been unbelievable and, in relation to us. But I think that our people have done an incredible job. I got elected on the basis of getting bad people out of our country that shouldn't be here, very dangerous people out of our country. And that's what I did. And then you have a judge that wants to take over, and I can't imagine it can be allowed. If it was up to him, they'd all be put back in our country. These are killers. These are drug lords. These are really bad people. But I want to thank the president of El Salvador because he's done an amazing job. You saw it. Yeah.
Elon Musk's special government tenure is coming to an end, 130 days, I think another month.
Yeah.
Do you want him to stay longer, or is it time for
This is interesting. I wonder what he says around Doge potentially being extended past July 4th, 2026.
him to go back to running these companies in Europe?
Well, I think he's amazing, but I also think he's got a big company to run. And so at some point he's going to be going back. He wants to.
Did you want to keep him around?
But I'd keep him as long as I could keep him. He's a very talented guy. I love very smart people. He's very smart, and he's done a good job. Doge has, we found numbers that nobody can even believe, like 400 billion, 500 billion. It could be close to $1 trillion by the time they end on different things. And he's led the charge, and you've seen a lot of his people. And these are people that joined up.
I think Trump might have no choice but to keep Elon around. Because let's say the tariffs do get bad and it spikes up inflation. The only way for the bond market to start buying bonds is if they think we're going to cut spending. And if Elon and Doge are gone, I don't know how the hell we're going to crack down on cutting spending. So there might be a world where Trump needs Elon a year from now, because if he doesn't, inflation could just go crazier if the tariffs are that bad. And you need yields to come down, which might mean you need Doge.
Say the high IQ people. I like high IQ people. And they've done a great job. No, at some point, Elon's going to want to go back to his company. I will say he's got, despite the way he's been treated, so he's an American patriot, but the way he's been treated with Tesla is just terrible. It's just terrible.
Once he goes
In fact,
back-
you have a Tesla, and you love it. You love it. He was saying before he bought a Tesla, he loved it. A lot of people are buying Teslas, I think, and I hope they are. He should not be treated that way. He's done an incredible service to our country.
But once he goes back, is Doge going to keep operating even without Elon here?
Well, I can't tell you that. I can say this, that a lot of the people that are working with Doge are the secretaries, the heads of the various agencies, and they've learned a lot, and they're dealing with the Doge people. I think some of them may try and keep the Doge people with them, but, at a certain point, I think it will end. But they have also gotten a big education, and they're doing a really good job. There'll be a point at which the secretaries will be able to do this work and do it very, as we say, with the scalpel. And that's what we want. Yeah, Jeff?
Mr. President, have you had any updates on the U.S. soldiers missing in Lithuania?
I have.
Can you give us an update?
So 3 are no longer with us, and 1 is unfortunately probably in the same category, but they haven't declared that yet. It was a very heavy truck, like a toy, but I mean, really heavy, that lifted the heaviest equipment. And it would seem that the bank of the lake collapsed. The weight is so big. And it was at night, and it was very cold weather, and ice, a lot of ice. And it's possibly slipped, and the weight is so enormous of this thing. It's a massively heavy vehicle. And if they slipped a little bit, that's probably what happened, and it flipped. And 3 are gone, and 1 is missing.
On a separate topic, follow up on immigration. Did you see the video of the Tufts University student who was taken off the street by ICE agents last week in hoodies and masks? There's been a lot of criticism of that. Are you comfortable with how that was handled?
Well, I haven't really looked at it in any detail, but I will. I mean, I have seen it quickly, but not, I wouldn't want to comment on. Yeah, please.
Yeah, Mr. President, would you be able to confirm recent reporting that you are making plans to go to Saudi Arabia next month? And if so, why is Saudi Arabia so important?
So I have a very good relationship with the Middle East. In fact, if you look at Michigan, I won the vote by a lot. People were a little surprised. And I have a very good relationship with Mohammed and the king. His son is Mohammed. He's great. Crown Prince, actually, he's prime minister too. He's got a lot of good titles, but he's great. And the king has been wonderful. And if you remember, last time I went to Saudi Arabia, I put him first on the list because they agreed to buy $450 billion worth of American goods, military and otherwise. And they did. And it was an unbelievable day. It was in this gorgeous ballroom, and companies were there from many, probably 100 companies. And they were given anywhere from $40 or $50 million to less and more, actually. Okay, some of them were given numbers that were just many times that amount. I think we had a couple of $20 billion deals and big stuff. And it's a very rich country because of oil. And we are a very rich country, ultimately, when we straighten out because of oil. Oil is always good. And I agreed to do it again, and they've agreed to spend close to $1 trillion of money in our American companies, which to me means jobs. So they're going to spend hundreds of billions of dollars giving them to American companies that are going to be making equipment for Saudi Arabia and other places in the Middle East. And for that, I think it's worth it. I did it last time, $450 billion. And the press was there. It was one of the most unique days I've ever seen, where companies would get up and, you're getting 20 billion. They named the company, the chairman were all there, every chairman and top person in the company. You remember that, Peter? I don't know if you were there. You might be too young for that.
I was on the Democratic campaign trail at the
Oh,
time,
that
so I
was
just-
boring. This was a much better deal. But it was amazing, actually. It was an amazing day. We sold and we partook in $450 billion worth of investment into American companies. And they announced the company, the amount of money, $1 billion, $5 billion, $25 billion. And the chairman of the company, many of whom, you know, are well-known figures, prestigious figures, great business leaders, they went up, they shook the hand of somebody and they would sit down, and we just had a big investment made. So it was a record. Nobody ever beat it before. $450 billion worth of jobs. I view it as jobs more than anything else. And now we're close to $1 trillion. So it's more than double the number that we did when I first came to office.
And this trip takes place next month.
All right, guys, I have to end it out there. I got to get going. I will put this link in the chat for anyone who still wants to listen to Trump speak. I mean, we got the main stuff out of the way, which was, to me, it was just one thing. It was tariffs. And he said, well, I can promise they will be relatively kind. And then he says, you know what? I've never been called kind before, but a reporter called me kind. So I'm happy they called me kind. That was the answer that we got in the context of tariffs. 2 more days. 2 more days until April 2nd. And then we're going to see how this all plays out. All right. That is it. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I will be live again tomorrow on the Market Open. We got 2 days left until we get April 2nd. We'll probably get some more headlines tomorrow. And yeah, that's pretty much it. No daily recap today. My plan was to end the market open or market close at 5 and then record it from 5 to 6. But I have to go do something for like the next 3 hours. So won't be a daily recap today. We will have a daily recap tomorrow, starting fresh, April 1st. And we will still have Robinhood Weekly tonight. So I'll be back for Robinhood Weekly. But yeah, daily recap, we will start that again tomorrow. All right, cool. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate you all. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Last day to buy the dip tomorrow. Who knows, dude? Who freaking knows at this point? Markets are down about 0.5% after hours. We'll see how this ends up playing out on April 2nd. All right. Thank you, everybody. Bye. See you guys tomorrow on the Market Open. Also, I should change my shirt, dude. Trump got me freaking sweating with all this freaking tariff volatility. I'll see you guys tomorrow on the Market Open. Bye, everybody.